801. Teaching each other to build the true foundation. Mr. Bai had naturally already guessed that Li Fan had abandoned his physical body and his avatar was attached to an item. The myriad spirits, withered branch puppets scattered and fled, along with the Medicine King True Cauldron soaring into the sky. Even any random object scattered on the ground might contain a trace of Li Fan's true spirit. The best opportunity to identify him had already passed, and now, even he couldn't discern where Li Fan had gone. Fortunately, that wasn't his purpose for coming here. With a wave of his sleeve, a surge of power emanated from him. The chaos fluctuations permeating Longevity Valley were gradually suppressed. Mr. Bai flew into the valley, landing before a group of children with somewhat pale faces but determined eyes. Clearing the debris from the ground, Mr. Bai didn't stand on ceremony and sat down cross-legged. He wore a faint and amiable smile. "Come here, children. There isn't much time left." Mr. Bai's aura was calm and gentle, making people forget the calamity they had just experienced and unconsciously relax. The children looked at each other and obediently sat down. These children were the group, including Jiyu Xinghan, who had been captured by Fang Ziji of the Medicine King sect and subsequently granted the foundation establishment through me technique. Fang Ziji had a secret method to identify talent. Therefore, the aptitudes of these little ones were frighteningly high. Each of them was no less than Zhang Haobo and the others from the boundary. Originally, Li Fan wanted to rely on them to comprehend the foundation establishment through me technique and crack the secret of understanding oneself. Then, the end disc could completely shield against the heavenly mystery treasure mirror. But things didn't go as planned, and the situation in this world took a sharp turn. Li Fan, discovering his own abnormality, was frightened by Mr. Bai. He only wanted to desperately save his life and couldn't wait for any of them to succeed. Fortunately, Mr. Bai, who had synchronized Li Fan's memories, also knew about this. "How is your foundation establishment through me technique progressing?" he asked gently, trying to soften his tone. Like students facing a teacher examining their knowledge, the children were somewhat nervous. For a moment, none of them dared to speak first. Fortunately, with Mr. Bai's continuous encouragement, they gradually and chatteringly shared their insights. Mr. Bai listened attentively, nodding slightly from time to time. Then, he examined the children's physical conditions one by one, revealing a thoughtful expression. This scene was observed by the 3 Dao harmonization experts of the Medicine King sect. Not long ago, after the chaos domain was dispelled by Mr. Bai, their strength had completely returned to normal. However, intimidated by the other party's terrifying strength, they didn't dare to act rashly. Dismissing other irrelevant disciples, they obediently waited to the side. They looked at each other, watching Mr. Bai, who was seriously mingling with the children, with strange expressions, wondering what this great figure was up to. "Old Fang, you are knowledgeable. Can you explain to me what exactly is happening?" Lu San glanced again at Li Fan's corpse, which had no aura left, and asked through voice transmission. "Is there even a need to say? It's so obvious. Our sect leader provoked a great figure he shouldn't have, and the other party chased him to our door. After exhausting all means, he still couldn't resist in the slightest. In order to prevent the Medicine King sect from being implicated, he decisively and righteously chose to die as an apology." Fang Ziji sighed. "I am too familiar with this kind of thing." Zhang Yushan remained silent, while Lu San's eyes twitched. "It's better to die like this," the thought suddenly flashed through his mind. Regardless of the different thoughts of the 3 Dao harmonization experts of the Medicine King sect, Mr. Bai seemed to have really forgotten everything else, patiently discussing foundation establishment through me with the children. He didn't look down on them because they were young. Every sentence was answered. His attitude was amiable. Therefore, in a short period of time, the children had come to like Mr. Bai. From passive to active, they chattered and shared with him the various difficulties and insights they encountered in the process of trying to cultivate the foundation establishment through me technique. After hearing the children's specific situations, Mr. Bai quickly proposed thoughtful guidance for each of them, encouraging them to try cultivating again. Soon, the children closed their eyes and fell into cultivation. Mr. Bai's eyes never left them, carefully and cautiously observing every change in the children. Now, the heavenly Tao of the Xuanwang world is falsely used the wonders of heaven and earth to build a foundation. The foundation establishment through me technique seems to still be within the new system. In fact, it has jumped out of the shackles and can be described as defying the heavens. Therefore, soon, these children who tried again opened their eyes one after another. Their cultivation ended in failure again. Mr. Bai was as expected, and not discouraged, patiently asking them one by one about the new problems they encountered this time. After checking their physical condition, he quickly proposed improved cultivation plans again. Lu San and others were greatly shocked after witnessing this scene. Teaching students according to their aptitude, equality for all beings. This, as ancient Tao harmonization experts and sect elders, their vision was naturally not low. They instantly saw how amazing Mr. Bai's actions were. Being able to cultivate oneself and being able to teach others to cultivate are completely different concepts. Moreover, this mysterious and exceptionally handsome expert didn't seem like he couldn't cultivate at all. The three still didn't dare to disturb him. Fang Ziji even had a flash of inspiration and took out a memory stone, intending to secretly record this scene of Mr. Bai teaching. This little action naturally couldn't be hidden from Mr. Bai's eyes. He turned his head and glanced slightly. Lu San's breathing stopped suddenly, fearing that Fang Ziji's behavior would offend this expert. Fortunately, Mr. Bai didn't choose to delve into it. He just continued to teach the children. He is teaching, and also learning. Zhang Yushan, who had been silent all along, seemed to have discovered something. A trace of shock flashed in her eyes, and she said through voice transmission. Foundation establishment through me. This mysterious foundation establishment technique was taught to these children by Li Fan before his fall. Lu San recalled the content of the technique, carefully listening to Mr. Bai's explanation, his eyes gradually lighting up. In this way, Mr. Bai and this group of genius children became teachers to each other, using a total of 35 bodies with different constitutions as experimental subjects. Constantly experimenting with and improving the foundation establishment through me technique. This originally extremely difficult to cultivate heaven-defying technique was also being updated at an unimaginable speed. Time slowly passed in this process. Finally, the first child to successfully establish their foundation appeared. An inexplicable aura descended on the field. Ji Yu Xinghan stood up abruptly, looking at his completely new body, his little face full of excitement, and said, "Sir." Before he finished speaking, the entire Longevity Valley suddenly trembled violently. Mr. Bai put away the smile on his face and shielded the children behind him. He looked up at the sky, finally here. When the monthly ticket ended, it was 3,579. Achieving the goal gave 1,000 tickets, which is 4,579. The odd numbers are not counted, starting from 4,000 tickets. Now it is 6,475. 1,000 monthly tickets plus one more update. This chapter is considered a 5,000 monthly ticket plus update. Still owing 6,000. Seeking monthly tickets. I want to update more. 802. Mr. Bai passes on the Dharma. The celestial venerable of law transmission, as expected, is the strongest existence of this era, suppressing the Xuanwang world. With Mr. Bai's strength, he could hide for a while. But in the end, he couldn't hide forever. After finally perfecting the foundation establishment with myself method and successfully obtaining practical validation, the celestial venerable of law transmission still found Mr. Bai's location based on some clues. Buzz. As if the air was instantly sucked out, the immense pressure caused everyone in Medicine King Valley to cover their heads in pain. In the sky of the secret realm, cracks appeared. As if the secret realm itself couldn't withstand the great power and was about to shatter. Longevity Valley was like a small boat in a storm, shaking violently and on the verge of collapse. All of this happened in an instant. However, it wasn't actually Law Transmission himself who came. It was just that he cast his gaze from above the sky. Mr. Bai slowly walked out, flew into the air, and gently stepped down. The cracks in the sky of the secret realm gradually recovered. The shaking Longevity Valley also slowly returned to calm. The crowd, recovering from the pressure of law transmission, were all pale and trembling slightly. Even the three-person Tao harmonization group was the same. In front of law transmission, ordinary Tao harmonization cultivators were no different from so-called foundation establishment or core formation cultivators. They looked at Mr. Bai in the air, who single-handedly blocked all the pressure from law transmission, with different expressions. Mr. Bai's clothes moved without wind, rustling. Take care of the children. The birth of the foundation establishment with myself method is inseparable from their contributions. Without turning his head, he simply gave this instruction. After that, Mr. Bai broke through the air and left Longevity Valley. Mr. Bai. From beginning to end, the people of Longevity Valley didn't know Mr. Bai's name. They only referred to him as Open Black Lens Bracket Mr. Close Black Lens Bracket. Just like the group of orphans who lived in the dilapidated Xuantian temple in Ningyuan City back then. Seeming to have finally locked onto the person he was looking for, Lot Transmission's pressure gradually dissipated from Longevity Valley. Not disappeared, but all concentrated on Mr. Bai. After Mr. Bai tore through space and went to the Xuanwang main world. Whether it was because of the influence of Lot Transmission's power, or Mr. Bai's intention. In short, the sky of Longevity Valley did not necessarily return to its original state. Instead, a huge gap was cracked in it, allowing them to clearly see what was happening in the Xuanwang world at this moment. Mr. Bai flew into the sky, his figure becoming larger and larger. In the blink of an eye, he became like a giant with the Dharma body, standing upright. With the tracking target appearing, Lot Transmission did not say much. Above the sky, black vortexes suddenly appeared one after another. Like empty holes, releasing infinite suction towards Mr. Bai. It was as if pairs of eyes were staring at the other party without any expression. Due to the existence of the devouring Yuan white mist barrier, at this moment, only Luoyang and Luoyang provinces, where Longevity Valley was located, could see this shocking scene. And all the cultivators who were staring at the black vortexes at the top of the sky all became dazed in an instant. Many people even flew directly towards the sky on the spot. Like moths to a flame, chasing the constantly changing black holes in the sky. That attraction was ignorant and nameless. But it seemed that the temptation of the heaven and earth spirit for cultivators was even better. This was only the external manifestation of those black vortexes. Mr. Bai, who was bearing all of its power, his towering figure, in an instant, seemed to become somewhat distorted. Moreover, there were constant explosions, inexplicably occurring in various parts of his body. This was still Lot Transmission's initial method. Next, was the beginning that made the children in Medicine King Valley exclaim in surprise. A strange purple color suddenly quietly occupied the sky of Luoyang and Luoyang provinces. Covering the sky and replacing the scorching sun. Under the purple light, Mr. Bai's clothes, hair, and even eyeballs seemed to be stained by that strange color. Bang! A mass of flesh and blood burst open from Mr. Bai's body. Then, as if there was a human-shaped phantom, drifting away inexplicably, returning to the sky. If Li Fan was still here at this moment, then he would definitely be able to see that this was the phenomenon of the heaven and earth spirit being stripped from Mr. Bai's body after being deceived. Bang, 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 the huge sound of explosions continued, resounding throughout the universe. And Lot Transmission's follow-up moves came one after another. Strands of thin lines like black earthworms, densely packed. Like a pack of hunting hyenas, they surrounded Mr. Bai and frantically sucked. Every moment, countless lines were lost from his body. Being transformed by these wriggling black lines into a part of their own group. The celestial Venerable of Lot Transmission's attack had already exceeded the scope of ordinary spells and divine powers. There was no dazzling light, no earth-shattering power. There were only various strange and unusual open black lens bracket phenomena close black lens bracket. What caused these open black lens bracket phenomena close black lens bracket to occur must be a terrifying power that exceeded the level of cultivators' cognition. The cultivators of Luoyang and Luoyang provinces who witnessed this scene were all speechless. Faced with Lot Transmission's continuous attacks, Mr. Bai seemed to have no power to parry at all. Just standing silently, passively taking a beating. Just when everyone thought so, Mr. Bai finally made a move. Stretching out his hands, his long sleeves fluttered, instantly drilling into the white mist barrier in front of him, which also spanned the sky and cut through the various domains of Xuanwang. After that, a great force emerged from his arms. Boom boom boom. The huge muffled sound seemed to come from all corners of the world. That is, look, the white mist barrier is moving. Soon, the cultivators noticed the abnormality and kept exclaiming. The white mist barrier, which had been silent for tens of thousands of years and seemed to be eternally unchanged, was actually slowly flowing. The roaring sound became louder and louder, and the speed of the white mist's flow became faster and faster. And the source of the flow was Mr. Bai's arms. A huge suction force appeared from his hands, frantically sucking all the devouring yuan white mist that the cultivators were afraid of avoiding into his own sleeves. From a gurgling stream, to a rushing river, and then to a Dao Dao big river. The white mist that enveloped the entire Xuanwang world was being continuously drawn, rushing rapidly towards Mr. Bai. And this move seemed to finally truly anger law transmission. In the faint purple sky, a face loomed. Then, two fingers, like pillars supporting the sky, descended from the sky. The sky instantly became gloomy. The wailing sound, like a demonic wind raging, came from above the 9 heavens, resounding throughout the 2 provinces. Wind and thunder roared together, and spatial cracks, like spider webs, densely covered. In an instant, it extended from the sky to the earth. All those who were unfortunately affected by it were instantly turned into powder, with no bones left. And those who were lucky enough to escape the disaster were also trapped by the huge pressure brought by the 2 fingers falling from the sky. They couldn't move at all. Those who couldn't bear it even knelt down directly on the spot. There is still 1 chapter being written, it may take 1 or 2 o'clock. 803. The dead never die, please vote. Ravines spread, snaking across the land. The grounds of Luoyan and Luying provinces were visibly pressed down several zhong. The transmission of law, with just the power of 2 fingers, was already terrifying. Facing the giant fingers about to crush his head, Mr. White's expression remained unchanged. Instead, a long-awaited, gratified smile appeared. The motion of drawing white mist from the barrier in his sleeves slightly paused, and the originally surging white mist abruptly stopped. Then, whoosh, as if countless rays of light illuminated the dim, strangely purple world. In an instant, beneath the 2 fingers transmitting law, a dense giant net appeared. Formed by the devouring yuan white mist, compressed in an instant. Even high in the sky, it could still emit an aura that made cultivators feel palpitations. The pure white light met the descending giant fingers. A tremendous roar, like the collapse of the sky, resounded between heaven and earth. The sound was too grand, and in the ears of the cultivators, it was a silent stillness. But soon after, the cultivators within the 2 provinces successively discovered that gurgling blood was pouring from their ears. Covering their ears with both hands, they were filled with horror. Crack, snap, blocked by the devouring yuan giant net, the momentum of the 2 fingers transmitting law did not stop. It only paused for a moment before continuing to crush downward. Although the white mist was being consumed at an extremely fast rate, Mr. White was continuously drawing and replenishing it from the barrier. For a time, the battle between the 2 sides fell into a strange stalemate. Cultivators with a little cultivation could see at this time. The transmission of law was not actually using its full strength. It was just that, for some reason, it had some concerns. The white mist from all over the Xuanwang realm was drawn by Mr. White to fight against the transmission of law. Gradually, the cultivators in various provinces discovered a strange sight. The thick white mist that had not dissipated for tens of thousands of years was slowly fading. The originally somewhat narrow field of vision gradually became clear. Because of this, they could see further. They faintly saw various visions from Luoyan and Luying provinces. Standing on the earth, overlooking the panorama of Xuanwang. Realizing that the white mist was dissipating, Mr. White revealed a slight, almost imperceptible smile. Then he raised his head and looked up at the 2 fingers transmitting law that were still pressing down, his expression solemn. The next moment, clouds moved in all directions in the Xuanwang realm. The spiritual energy of the entire world seemed to erupt in chaos in an instant. At a speed that open black lens bracket humans close black lens bracket could not understand, in an instant, ignoring the distance of dozens or even hundreds of provinces, it gathered on Mr. White. So Mr. White's already towering body expanded several times again, almost occupying most of the sky, making him visible no matter where he was in the Xuanwang realm. Sorry, but during this time, open black lens bracket Xuanwang close black lens bracket is my world. Mr. White said lightly to the transmission of law above the sky. Then, he grabbed the white mist flow that was surging from the entire world and slashed upward. The vast white mist instantly solidified, transforming into a blade, splitting the sky and the earth. As if countless suns rose in the sky at the same time, the white mist sky-opening blade illuminated the entire Xuanwang realm. All the living beings in the world subconsciously closed their eyes in an instant. There was no earth-shattering sound, and when they reopened their eyes, they found that the 2 fingers transmitting law had disappeared. Above the entire Xuanwang sky, a layer of amber-like yellow crystal had been shrouded at some point. Fragile, but hard, outside the yellow crystal, huge shadows seemed to be swimming. This fantastic and magnificent scene was still being staged for the first time in the world of Xuanwang. It could not help but attract the minds of cultivators all over the world. Okay, finally, I can have some peace for a while. Now, let's start the class. Mr. White looked at the countless living beings in the Xuanwang realm below and said with a smile. In the past, the Heavenly Lord had a law, which was to open black lens bracket borrow the wonders of heaven and earth to build the foundation of the Tao close black lens bracket. I also have a law now. Without borrowing external objects, see the heart and understand the nature, and distinguish oneself clearly. Named, open black lens bracket building the foundation with myself close black lens bracket. Although humans are ordinary things, they are born from heaven and earth. They actually possess the wonders of heaven and earth, the creation of yin and yang. Mr. White spoke eloquently, word by word. The beings of the Xuanwang realm listened with rapt attention. And his actions seemed to completely touch the inverse scale of the transmission of law. The yellow crystal that enveloped the entire Xuanwang realm was suddenly subjected to a violent impact. Like countless thunderbolts, rising in the sky, the hard and unmatched amber crystal actually revealed a trace of cracks. Mr. White didn't care at all, and continued to teach without stopping. His voice seemed to have a special magic power that could soothe the minds of the world. Even if there were continuous roars from the 9 heavens. But it still could not affect the world, concentrating on listening to Mr. White's lecture. After explaining the open black lens bracket building the foundation with myself law close black lens bracket in detail to the Xuanwang beings, Mr. White did not stop. Instead, he went on to elaborate on the path to achieving the Tao after building the foundation with oneself. The so-called open black lens bracket primordial golden core close black lens bracket, open black lens bracket fleshly body nascent soul close black lens bracket, open black lens bracket mind incarnation close black lens bracket. Mr. White also admitted frankly that this was just his deduction in a hurry. Perhaps it is not perfect and has many loopholes. And the path to the Tao also stops at the transformation God realm. As for the higher level, under the new law theorem, the method of cultivation without borrowing external objects. Cultivators still need to explore on their own. Faced with Mr. White's selfless teaching, imparting a path to the Tao that was completely contrary to the Heavenly Lord of transmission of law. The attitude shown by the world's cultivators was different. Some were skeptical, some were inexplicably excited, some were thoughtful, some were ambitious. The so-called sentient beings have all kinds of states, each different. But Mr. White did not care. Only after teaching all that he had learned this time. No longer speak. His figure also returned to its original size, looking up at the amber crystal that was about to be completely shattered. Faced with the possible revenge of the Heavenly Lord of transmission of law next. There was no fear on Mr. White's face. He was just at ease, waiting quietly. Just then, he suddenly noticed that a figure was rushing towards him. Somewhat old, trembling, but the excitement in his heart was overflowing. Mr. White. He flew to Mr. White's side and shouted uncontrollably. The appearance of the visitor was very similar to that of Mr. White today. It's just that his face was covered with wrinkles, and he didn't know how many vicissitudes he had experienced. Behind him was a black coffin, which looked a little strange. If Li Fan, or Zhao King and others were here, they should be able to recognize at a glance that this old man was Shu Ke back then. Many years later, seeing the resurrected Mr. White again. Originally, he should have been excited. But, the moment he really saw the other party, the expression on his face was a little stunned. Then he became extremely lost. You are not Mr. White. Shu Ke said a little despondently. Mr. White looked at the old man in front of him who was almost identical to him and gently patted him on the shoulder. I am indeed not him. The deceased is dead. How can a person who has completely fallen be resurrected so easily? I'm just a trace of him imprinted and left in this world. In the words of you cultivators. Also called open black lens bracket the soul of heaven and earth close black lens bracket. This chapter was too difficult to write. I kept writing until 2 o'clock. I insisted on writing it out. Please give me a monthly ticket. 804. The Dharma finally shows its power. 6,000 monthly tickets plus more. The soul of heaven and earth, born as a human. The soul of heaven and earth, born as a human. The elderly Shu Ke was filled with disbelief, stunned on the spot, muttering to himself. There are strong individuals in the world who have left their marks between heaven and earth. These marks are profound enough that even if they fall later, they can be restored based on these imprints. Their behavior and actions are just like they were at the beginning. But even so, it's still just a mold. Mr. Bai, calmly stated the facts about himself, not feeling frustrated because he was just someone's shadow. Then, how can he truly be resurrected? The elderly Shuke subconsciously touched the black coffin he was carrying on his back, asking somewhat eagerly. Mr. Bai shook his head and smiled. Perhaps, you have to ask someone with fate. After all, even he himself never had the idea of wanting to be resurrected. Shuke was about to say something more, but was suddenly interrupted by Mr. Bai. All right, it's time for you to leave. He raised his head, looking at the sky, his expression more serious than ever before. A gentle breeze blew past Shuke. A moment later, Shuke disappeared into the world, not knowing where he went. And at the same time, bang, 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 the transparent crystal that enveloped the Xuanwang world shattered into pieces. Above the high heavens, a face that all the cultivators of the myriad Immortals Alliance were very familiar with suddenly appeared. From outside the world, looking down upon the myriad beings of Xuanwang. As if in an instant, the entire world was completely frozen. All living beings, even their thoughts seemed to be frozen, stuck in place. At this moment, the Xuanwang world was completely silent. From outside the sky, several dark golden chains flew over, suddenly binding Mr. Bai's limbs. Mr. Bai seemed to have expected this, and did not struggle much. He just looked towards the Xuanwang world below. Affected by the majesty of the Dharma transmission true countenance, buzzing sounds gradually rang out from the depths of the earth. On the surface of the earth, deep ravines appeared, spreading in all directions. The entire world was trembling slightly after the Dharma transmission revealed its face. Under the shroud of such terrifying power, all living beings below the realm of the eternal celestial Venerable had no ability to resist. In fact, the vast majority of them could not even realize what was happening. Their consciousness still remained at the time when the Dharma transmission celestial Venerable appeared. The tremors became more and more intense, mountains collapsed, and rivers flowed in disorder. Plains rose into mountains, and highlands became flatlands. The various evolutions that the Xuanwang world would need thousands of years to undergo were now happening in an instant. However, it was not because of the evolution of heaven and earth, but because of the crude destruction of external forces. Seeing that even worse changes were about to occur, 5 different forces suddenly emerged from within the Xuanwang world. In an instant, they swept across the Xuanwang land, trying their best to calm the disintegrating world. The Dharma transmission celestial Venerable in the sky seemed to have noticed it as well. The revealed face blurred a bit. The turmoil vaguely had a tendency to subside. However, the chains wrapped around Mr. Bai showed no sign of loosening. On the contrary, they became tighter and tighter. Mr. Bai saw this scene below and sighed slightly. The current Xuanwang world no longer belongs to me. Quote, quote. Then I'll return it to you. After saying these words, Mr. Bai took one last look at the Xuanwang world. A hint of inexplicable expression appeared in his eyes. Then, endless white light emerged from his body. His entire body, at this moment, turned into light. These countless specks of white light, like an inverted Milky Way, flew against the sky. It was like countless stars returning to their home. Finally, it faded and dissipated into the world like a dream. The target disappeared. The dark golden chains that were emptied returned to the outside of the sky. It was just that it seemed that the Dharma transmission celestial Venerable did not stop his movements because of this. His face still vaguely occupied most of the sky. The other parts of his face gradually faded and merged with the sky. Only a pair of eyes became more and more profound. Like 2 black suns, hanging high in the sky. The entire Xuanwang world quickly darkened because of this. And the myriad beings whose thoughts had been stagnated were guided by an inexplicable force and looked up at the sky without knowing it. They met the eyes of the Dharma transmission. Most of the living beings in the world were like this. Only a few existences could not help but lower their heads, avoiding the gaze of the Dharma transmission. The Xuanwang world fell into a brief absolute stillness under the gaze of the Dharma transmission celestial Venerable. Then, just like the silence when it came, the face of the Dharma transmission disappeared into the sky without anyone noticing. A moment later, the living beings of the Xuanwang world gradually awakened. They were a little dazed at first, and were stunned for a moment. Then they continued their cultivation life. Just like before. It was just that everything about the heaven supporting and earth trampling, Mr. Bai, about the building foundation with meat technique, and about this change, had completely disappeared from their minds. It was as if nothing had ever happened in the world. In the Longevity Valley, The people of the Medicine King sect, who were gradually waking up, looked at the somewhat messy ground, their expressions a little confused. They vaguely remembered that this seemed to be related to an unparalleled powerhouse. But after thinking about it carefully, they couldn't remember anything. It was as if they had forgotten something particularly important, and a very uncomfortable feeling suddenly arose in their hearts. Several children in the field even cried for no reason. The 3 Tao integration experts of the Medicine King sect looked at me, and I looked at you. A trace of fear flashed in their eyes. Lu San was the first to recover, directing the disciples to deal with the chaos. Zhang Yushan looked at her hands, a trace of doubt flashing in her eyes. Fang Ziji went to appease the children who were crying in a group. Suddenly, he seemed to have thought of something. He quickly took out a shadow recording stone from his storage ring. It seemed to record the image shortly before the change occurred. However, when he saw the scene recorded in it, he was a little confused. Dozens of children were sitting on the ground, chattering and very excited, seeming to be saying something. But the object they were collectively facing was completely empty. And there was no sound coming from their mouths. They seemed to be talking to an non-existent object. This extremely strange scene made Fang Ziji feel cold in his heart. He subconsciously put away the shadow recording stone and clenched it tightly. The existence has been erased. The thought flashed through his mind instantly, and Fang Ziji then associated it with the abnormal scenes that had just occurred in the entire Medicine King sect, and his heart suddenly became extremely heavy. He decided to bury this secret in his heart forever. And never mention it to anyone again. It took a full 7 days for Longevity Valley to gradually return to order. And in the process of cleaning up the ruins, a child named Ji Yu Xinghan found a crystal-clear jade disc under a pile of ruins and gravel. There are 2 more updates tonight. The May Day 7-day holiday is over, and Li Taishi should go home. Some readers have been saying that there are no books to read, and they can't even save up monthly tickets. I recommend an absolutely good-looking novel for you, Teleportation Portal Directly. 805. Xinghan passes on the mantle. This jade disc looked extremely extraordinary. Touching it felt like the tender skin of a young girl. Originally, Ji Yu Xinghan intended to hand this item over. But somehow, inexplicably, he concealed the fact that he had found the jade disc. The young Ji Yu Xinghan was not a liar. So for several days, feeling guilty, he dared not look directly at the seniors in the valley. Fortunately, he was already a bit of a loner, and after the initial chaos, all the cultivators in Chengsheng Valley were busy recuperating. So no one noticed his abnormality. Gradually, he relaxed. Children are very curious. Certain that he had dug up some treasure, Ji Yu Xinghan busied himself with secretly studying the jade disc whenever he had free time. But to his disappointment, after many days, he couldn't figure out what made the jade disc special or what its specific use was. It seemed like just an ordinary jade object, just more beautiful. But out of the fantasy that exists in everyone's heart, Ji Yu Xinghan did not discard it. He simply stored the jade disc within his dantian, nurturing it with his own spiritual energy, taking care of it meticulously. As the reconstruction of the Medicine King Valley was completed, Ji Yu Xinghan's attention was forced to shift. Because the former sect leader Li Fan unfortunately died in the disaster, the future direction of the Medicine King sect became a major problem. The inheritance of the Medicine King sect was not maintained by bloodline. Li Fan was able to inherit the position of sect leader only because of Lu Rushan's will. Now that Li Fan had died suddenly, the selection of the next sect leader was undecided. If simply ranked by strength, then without a doubt, the sect leader should be born among the 3 Tao integration cultivators, Lu San, Zhang Yushan, and Fang Ziji. Zhang Yushan and Fang Ziji had little interest in power. The greatest possibility was that Lu San would inherit. But, firstly, Lu San believed that he was Lu Rushan's servant and was unwilling and unworthy to assume the position of Medicine King sect leader. Secondly, the current Medicine King sect faced more than just the issue of sect leader inheritance. The greater crisis came from the thousands of cultivators who were thrown out of the Medicine King cauldron. They were all ancient method cultivators, and most of them practiced the Medicine King sect's true inheritance, the scripture of universal salvation and longevity. Once they all awakened, a massacre would likely break out within the Medicine King sect. Although they had all been forcibly put back to sleep by the 3 Tao integration experts working together. But after all, without treasures like the Medicine King True Cauldron, it could only be maintained temporarily. In such a short period, there was simply not enough time to find cultivation methods suitable for these sleeping cultivators to practice. For various reasons, Lu San and the others ultimately discussed and decided to join the Myriad Immortals Alliance, just like the Tian sect. Concerning the future fate of the Medicine King sect, Lu San, uneasy, personally went to observe again. After returning, the three Dao integration experts reached a consensus. Lu San would come forward and formally visit the Myriad Immortals Alliance, begging to join. Fang Ziji took advantage of this time to distribute the Doomsday Discs to some key figures within the sect, especially those prodigies he had brought back. He explained how to use them and instructed them not to leak this matter under any circumstances. Although the Medicine King sect was not as famous as the Immortal Dao 10 sects. But because the disciples in the sect were benevolent and practiced universal salvation and healing, even after thousands of years, many of their legends still circulated. In terms of popularity, it was not below the 10 sects. As the second small world forced to voluntarily join, and with its overall strength still relatively intact, the Myriad Immortals Alliance attached great importance to the Medicine King sect. They sent a Dao integration immortal venerable named Qingyan to be responsible for this matter. Under the leadership of Lu San, Qingyan, after visiting Changsheng Valley, was overjoyed. Without any twists and turns, the two sides quickly agreed on the Medicine King sect's entry into the alliance. The Medicine King sect still maintained relative independence and freedom, only requiring that all disciples, like ordinary Immortal Alliance cultivators, carry the Celestial Mystery Treasure Mirror. Qingyan did not delve into the fact that many cultivators in the Medicine King sect had already taken the lead in lurking in the Immortal Alliance. Soon, the news of the Medicine King sect joining the Myriad Immortals Alliance spread throughout the Xuanwang realm. The world was shaken for a time, accelerating the surrender of more and more small worlds. The Myriad Immortals Alliance did not break its promise, and various support arrived quickly. Of course, the first thing that was carried out was the scanning of the Celestial Mystery Treasure Mirror. After the Beast Seed Realm and Changsheng Valley were all illuminated by the light of the Celestial Mystery Treasure Mirror, the Medicine King sect also got the help of cultivation methods as they wished. As one sleeping cultivator after another was awakened and switched to new methods, the Medicine King sect's crisis was finally resolved. With the crisis resolved, the next step was to look forward. Currently, the Medicine King sect has a total of 6 Dao integration experts, 23 transformation gods, and a number of nascent souls. Placed in today's cultivation world, it can be considered a large force. Yet there was no leader to be found for a long time, truly a leaderless group. Although it had already surrendered, and the nominal leader was the Myriad Immortals Alliance. Under this high degree of autonomy, the power of the sect leader was still very great. Moreover, they could directly be responsible for and contact the Immortal Alliance, with more benefits. Even Dao integration cultivators rarely wouldn't be tempted. So, after some infighting, in order to avoid the Medicine King sect, which had just recovered its vitality, from falling apart again. Finally, after a vote, it was decided that Lu San would ultimately inherit the position of sect leader. The young Jiyu Xinghan was not very clear about the whole process. He just vaguely saw many cultivators in strange clothes coming. Then many seniors awakened. After a period of chaos, the final result was good. He still had a deep impression of Lu San, the old grandpa who had personally taught them. By the way, what did he teach back then? The young Jiyu Xinghan couldn't help but fall into confused thought. This thinking process lasted throughout the entire sect ceremony. In the end, he still couldn't figure it out. Later, when all the sect disciples were required to enter the Celestial Mystery Sub-Mirror and generate their own Celestial Mystery Treasure Mirror, his attention was temporarily diverted. For Jiyu Xinghan, the Celestial Mystery Treasure Mirror, a treasure with countless functions, was much more interesting than that jade disc. His mind was immersed in it, studying its various uses, gradually forgetting the jade disc. Until one day, after he officially started cultivating again, he noticed something was wrong. When his friends began to try borrowing the wonders of heaven and earth to build the foundation, Jiyu Xinghan found that he seemed, possibly, perhaps, had already built his foundation. Jiyu Xinghan was a little dazed for a while. Jiyu Xinghan didn't dare to ask others about the abnormalities in his body. Just slowly pondering, and in this process, the jade disc, which had been silent and like a mortal object, finally reacted. There's one more chapter being written, it will be later. 806. The real immortals appear in the ruins of immortals. Please vote. Chapter 800. Seeing a true immortal in the immortal ruins, seeking monthly tickets. From it, a faint light was emitted. Many blurry images emerged along with the light. As Ji Yuxinghan was drawn to the images in the light, the jade disc seemed to come alive, transmitting waves of longing. Coming back to his senses, Ji Yuxinghan felt somewhat confused. And a little surprised. However, he had heard of treasures possessing spirits. Quickly accepting this premise, Ji Yuxinghan began to sense the jade disc's desire. But it was merely a vague and instinctive reaction. The jade disc could not speak, relying entirely on him to guess. Ji Yuxinghan tried various methods to satisfy the jade disc. Spirit stones, mineral jade, herbs. The jade disc seemed to have no interest in any of these. It continued to relentlessly emit its desire to Ji Yuxinghan. In addition, his other companions had all successfully established their foundations. Yet, he still didn't know how to explain it. These two reasons combined, making Ji Yuxinghan feel distraught. It was by chance that he saw Elder Fang Ziji preparing the Doomsday Disc for the newly recruited core disciples. The jade disc's frantic agitation immediately made Ji Yuxinghan understand its goal. Ji Yuxinghan hesitated. After all, this Doomsday Disc was a precious item that Elder Fang had repeatedly emphasized the importance of. If there were any mistakes. But in the end, he couldn't resist the jade disc. With a flash of light, the jade disc appeared in his sea of consciousness. Under Ji Yuxinghan's anxious observation, the jade disc slowly flew onto the Doomsday Disc. Then, from below it, countless tiny light pillars, resembling tentacles, extended. Adhering to the Doomsday Disc. Originally, Ji Yuxinghan thought that the jade disc would damage the Doomsday Disc. But after observing for a while, he found that this was not the case. Instead, the two seemed to be merging into one through those sticky light tentacles. This put Ji Yuxinghan at ease. At the same time, he felt a little curious. Could it be that these two, the jade disc and the disc, are actually the same thing? Ji Yuxinghan couldn't help but think. But after all, he was still a child at heart. After fruitless research, Ji Yuxinghan quickly put it aside. Instead, he began to study the images he had obtained from the jade disc. Using myself to establish my foundation. What is this? It seems to match the situation inside my body. Ji Yuxinghan was overjoyed. Immediately, he stopped paying attention to the jade disc and focused on studying the method of using himself to establish his foundation. When he woke up from the enlightenment, the jade disc had completely merged with the Doomsday Disc. However, this fusion process seemed to be forced, with the jade disc clinging to it. And the final product was not so aesthetically pleasing. But Ji Yuxinghan didn't care about this. He knew that this jade disc was indeed likely to be an extraordinary treasure. Although Ji Yuxinghan was young, he was not naive. On the contrary, he was very clear about the dangers of the world. He knew the principle that a common man is guilty of possessing a treasure, so he decided to conceal both the existence of the jade disc and the method of using himself to establish his foundation. Perhaps I can use this new jade disc as a cover, claiming to the outside world that it is my foundation establishment treasure. The young Ji Yuxinghan thought to himself. In this way, unknown to anyone, the only cultivator in the world who used himself to establish his foundation began his cultivation. In the beginning, his performance made Lu San and others from the Medicine King sect feel inexplicably delighted. He understood everything with one explanation, and mastered everything with one understanding. Invincible among his peers, fighting against golden core cultivators was also an easy task. Ji Yuxinghan became the most outstanding junior disciple of the Medicine King sect for a time. Almost the entire sect placed high hopes on him. But his peak period was like a shooting star, fleeting. Before long, his peers broke through to the golden core in nascent soul realms one after another. But Ji Yuxinghan was still standing still. This extremely abnormal scene made Lu San and others from the Medicine King sect puzzled. Thinking that there was something wrong with Ji Yuxinghan's body, they took turns to check him personally. But no one could see the reason. And when asked Ji Yuxinghan himself, he only said that he had tried his best, but he could never go further. In the blink of an eye, 30 years passed. The Medicine King sect could only helplessly accept this fact, formally giving up on cultivating Ji Yuxinghan. But they were not too harsh, and he was still allowed to use many resources. It's just that they no longer paid too much attention to him. And facing the juniors whose cultivation had surpassed him, Ji Yuxinghan also became more and more silent. He lived in seclusion all day long, ignoring worldly affairs, rarely contacting outsiders, almost forgotten by everyone. Thus, 263 years passed. The white-haired Ji Yuxinghan finally ushered in the end of his life. Primordial golden core, primordial golden core. What exactly is primordial? He smiled miserably, his face bitter. Wanting to create something from nothing, opening up a new path. It's too difficult, it's really too difficult. Having successfully used myself to establish my foundation, I don't even have the chance to regret it or change to a new method. A warm jade disc suddenly appeared in his hand. Compared to more than 200 years ago, the jade disc's brilliance had been completely restrained. Like a stone that can be seen everywhere on the roadside, it would not attract anyone's attention at all. Ji Yuxinghan looked at the jade disc that had accompanied him for almost his entire life, his expression complex. It has ruined my life, he murmured in a low voice, wanting to throw the jade disc on the ground, but felt a little reluctant. Finally, he held the jade disc firmly in his hand. In full of unwillingness, he passed away. Ji Yuxinghan's death did not cause any waves. Even because there were no visions after his death, his body was not discovered until 3 years later. More than 200 years have passed, and everything in the Longevity Valley has changed. No one remembers the Medicine King sect's hope back then. No one paid attention. The funeral was simple. Soon, Ji Yuxinghan's body was buried in the Medicine King sect's disciple cemetery in the Beast Seed world. As one of his few relics, no one cared about the jade disc in Ji Yuxinghan's hand. Following him together, it was buried deep underground. From here on out, in endless darkness. Outside the Xuanwang world. In the Medicine King True Cauldron. A figure extremely similar to Li Fan, but extremely weak, groaned. Wiping the blood constantly flowing from his mouth and nose with his hand, as if he would die from excessive blood loss at any time. But he remained calm. One moment in the cauldron, 1,000 years in Xuanwang. He coughed lightly, his eyes filled with infinite emotion. Being able to personally experience the difference in time flow, this feeling is truly wonderful. Inside the Medicine King True Cauldron is the holy embryo Li Fan. As a link to cover up the eyes, it was a separate body created by Li Fan using his own blood essence with the holy blood transformation method before Mr. Bai arrived. Time was short, and his aptitude was the same as the main body. So it was just a mortal with no cultivation. Not long after leaving the Xuanwang world, he felt that the Medicine King Cauldron had deviated from its original trajectory. Moreover, the images transmitted from the body object dissociation disk became faster and faster. The huge amount of information almost burst his brain. Fortunately, everything finally returned to darkness. Only then did he get some relief. Although it is a body object, because my holy embryo still exists, I can remotely perform simple manipulation of the incarnation object. But it's only limited to this. He was outside the Xuanwang world, but he did not see the battle between Xuanfa and Mr. Bai, which was recorded by the dissociation disk and took place in the Xuanwang world. However, being able to see the Xuanfa Tianzun take action for the first time was a big enough gain for Li Fan. Temporarily suppressing the thoughts about Xuanfa, the holy embryo Li Fan is now faintly becoming a little excited. Because he is about to see the legendary Immortal ruins. Creaking sounds came from all parts of the Medicine King True Cauldron. Sufficient to explain the huge pressure it is bearing. The holy embryo Li Fan used the prepared telescope in the Medicine King Cauldron to peep at the Immortal ruins. Ahead, it was all darkness. The speed of the Medicine King Cauldron is getting faster and faster. Huge roaring sounds rang from all directions. As if there is a risk of disintegration at any time. However, the holy embryo Li Fan's vision still did not see anything. Is it just going to stop here? He was not only a little regretful. Boom! The Medicine King Cauldron began to disintegrate. The violent shaking made it almost impossible for him to stand firm. The holy embryo Li Fan struggled, took the telescope, and hid in the most core part of the Medicine King True Cauldron. A small shelter made entirely of eternal calamity refined gold. Under the increasing, almost unimaginable huge pressure, the Medicine King Cauldron finally couldn't hold on and shattered into countless pieces. At the same time, it fell towards the Immortal ruins. Only a moment later, the holy embryo Li Fan felt that even the eternal calamity refined gold was about to be unable to withstand it. But because of his innate character, he did not give up. He still raised his wish mirror and looked forward. Instantly, he was slightly stunned. In the originally dark field of vision, at some point, a continuous wilderness appeared. Above the wilderness, countless ruins are scattered. A tall corpse sat cross-legged on the earth. The flesh and blood have almost completely disappeared, leaving only a layer of skin, drooping on the bones. Dozens of blood-red chains are deeply embedded in the ground, locking this skeleton on the wilderness. And around the corpse, deep sunken gullies crisscross. On the wilderness, a very complex symbol is outlined. Although I don't recognize this symbol, but at the moment of seeing it, Li Fan naturally knew its meaning. That is a word. A hunger word. Endless hunger immediately surged in the mind of the holy embryo Li Fan. At the same time, the remains on the wilderness suddenly opened their eyes. 807. Xuanwang welcomes the destruction of the world. The moment his gaze locked onto the holy embryo Li Fan, the desire to hunger in holy embryo Li Fan's mind reached its peak. Since he was hungry, he had to eat. Every part of his flesh and blood seemed to have developed its own consciousness. They wanted to endlessly devour everything around them to alleviate the innate hunger. And holy embryo Li Fan himself was completely consumed by these thoughts. Which led to, in an instant, holy embryo Li Fan was like a punctured ball. With a pop, he rapidly shrank into a tiny particle amidst mutual devouring. And then completely disappeared from the world. The thoughts in his mind were still stuck at the moment he saw the immortal ruins, remains open their eyes. To explain this process in simple terms, the holy embryo Li Fan, with his mortal body, couldn't withstand the pressure of the immortal ruins' remains gaze, and he vanished in an instant. Of course, perhaps the limitation of mortal body could be removed. Even if the nascent soul realm true body were here, the outcome wouldn't be much better. The difference between cultivators, or rather, cultivators below the eternal life realm, and immortals is like the difference between heaven and earth. The difference is so great that words cannot describe it. With the demise of holy embryo Li Fan, logically, what should happen next in this life is waiting for the duration to expire. Then, Li Fan's incarnation, trapped within Gu Xinghan's coffin, would automatically revert to its origin. However, everything within the immortal ruins, whether it was the humanoid remains bound by dark red chains, or the hunger engraved on the desolate earth, all were existences that could not be understood by common sense. The holy embryo created by the saint blood transformation method, improved by the empire, is a completely independent individual relative to the true body. Yet, it also possesses a shared sense. Even if the true body has fallen, this thread of shared sense still transcends time and space, maintaining a connection to the true body's incarnation. Ordinary cultivators cannot detect this connection. Even the strongest in the Xuanwang world, the heavenly lords of the eternal life realm, may not be able to discover it. But, within the immortal ruins, there exists something called immortals. Thus, the figure within the immortal ruins, his gaze, through this connection, traveled through the barriers of time and space, reaching above the Xuanwang world. An extremely terrifying suction force descended. The entire beast seed world instantly collapsed into a black singularity. Everything within it fell and disappeared into it. In the next moment, the scope of the suction force extended to the Longevity Valley. After more than 200 years of development, the Medicine King sect can now be said to be extremely prosperous. 10 Tao Harmonization Realm Cultivators, 76 Spirit Transformation Realm Cultivators. Nascent Soul and Golden Core Cultivators are even more numerous. It surpasses even the most prosperous period of ancient times. But at this moment, all these great cultivators, Lu San, Fang Ziji, Zhang Yushan, and so on, all were powerless to resist, not even having time to react. All disappeared into the black singularity. After devouring 2 small worlds, the black singularity was not only not satisfied, but expanded even more rapidly. A black sphere capable of devouring everything appeared in the Xuanwang world. A true world-destroying calamity had descended. The moment the black singularity was born, the protective energy charging progress of Li Fan's incarnation plummeted, almost returning to zero in an instant. If Li Fan's true body were here, he would probably be like the other buried cultivators, perhaps not having enough reaction speed to activate reversion in time. Fortunately, this time reversion was activated proactively. But unlike before, after reversion was activated, the surrounding scenery did not immediately become illusory. Instead, it was in an extremely peculiar state. Outside of reversion, it was pitch black, forming a circular domain. And outside of the domain, scenes of the Xuanwang world being destroyed flashed rapidly. It seemed someone was letting out an earth-shattering roar, wanting to stop the black sphere from wantonly devouring. It seemed a towering, decaying tree appeared on the sky, accompanied by insane laughter. All must die. That's right, all must die. It seemed two crisscrossing rays of light instantly swept across the Xuanwang world about to disappear. Then, they broke through the air and fled, shooting towards the endless void outside the Xuanwang world. It seemed countless cultivators were looking at the black sun rising in the sky with horror, waiting for death and despair. The images changed faster and faster. Eventually, everything fell into pitch black. And then, brilliant silver light suddenly erupted outwards from the black domain of reversion. Anchored to Year 1, Disintegration Mountain Peak. Li Fan, in the mid-stage of the Golden Core realm, suddenly opened his eyes. His eyes were bloodshot, like a wild beast. Hungry, 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 hungry. Endless hunger filled his mind, causing him to almost instantly lose his rationality. He was too hungry. He urgently wanted to stuff everything in his sight into his stomach. He roughly smashed the wooden bed beneath him, then swallowed it into his stomach like a whale inhaling water. But the hunger did not alleviate in the slightest. On the contrary, it became even more intense. A strong sense of crisis instantly surged in Li Fan's heart. If he continued like this, dominated by hunger, then the fate awaiting him would likely be complete destruction. You must know that reversion has not yet finished charging, and he has no chance to start over. Grasping the moment when reason prevailed, Li Fan glanced at the reversion panel. In the cultivation method column, he saw the words Xuanwang Immortal Heart Sutra. So he silently activated it. Having experienced thousands of kalpas, the immortal heart remains unchanged. Although the Xuanwang Immortal Heart Sutra will not weaken the effect of hunger. But it can allow Li Fan to maintain his sanity, so as not to become a monster who only knows how to devour everything wantonly. The Immortal Heart Sutra was activated to the extreme, resisting endless hunger. Although it could save his life, the price was torture like being in an infernal hell. For a full 8 years, Li Fan was forced to stay on the Disintegration Mountain Peak, struggling hard against the hunger. He didn't even notice that reversion had finished charging in Year 6. 8 years have passed. This hunger has not weakened at all. A trace of determination flashed in Li Fan's eyes, which now resembled those of a crazy beast. He first looked at the prompt that had been present in reversion for a long time. This simulation is over. You can choose one of the following options to retain. 1. An item you held in this simulation. 2. Your cultivation realm in this simulation. 3. The simulated memories of a person closely related to you in this simulation. This memory can be inherited by that person. 4. Abandon the above choices to speed up the charging progress. Without hesitation, he chose the first option. Then, an item called Apocalypse Disintegration Disk appeared in the storage space of reversion. Reversion, Li Fan called out again. Do you want to virtualize the current scene and return to the established anchor point? Reversion's prompt sounded in time. Li Fan decisively chose yes. In the next moment, the scene of Disintegration Mountain Peak became illusory again. There will be another chapter later. Only 2 chapters today. These days I've been sleeping at 2 a.m. and waking up at 7 a.m. I can't take it anymore. I'm really afraid of sudden death. 808. Famine and chaos have the same origin. Still anchored to Year 1. Still at the summit of Mount Geely. An invisible fluctuation erupted from Li Fan, now at the mid-stage of Golden Core. Though his eyes were still somewhat bloodshot, the feeling of hunger had indeed lessened considerably. Having anticipated this, Li Fan immediately began circulating the Xuanwang Immortal Heart Sutra. Silently contending with the deadly hunger once more. The hunger was only weakened slightly, but it brought immense relief to Li Fan. In the 8 years of his previous life, he didn't know how he had managed to persevere. If not for the blessing of the Xuanwang Immortal Heart Sutra and his obsession with open black lens bracket longevity close black lens bracket, he would have likely given up and devoured everything within this great Zon small world. Li Fan didn't know what consequences such an action would bring. But he had a faint feeling that if he did, his end wouldn't be any better than that corpse above the immortal ruins. Having endured 8 years of torment, Li Fan, in this life, possessed much greater resilience in dealing with the weakened hunger. He could now think about other things while resisting the hunger. It still doesn't diminish with time. It seems I can only rely on open black lens bracket returning to truth close black lens bracket to mitigate its effects, Li Fan thought to himself. Since this time, the chosen inheritance option was to accelerate the charging progress. So, upon anchoring for 4 years, open black lens bracket returning to truth close black lens bracket was fully charged. With great determination, Li Fan maintained his clarity of mind while flying to Yi Yin's tomb to absorb the transformation Dao Stone. Only then did he activate returning to truth. Returning to Mount Jili at the anchor point of year 1, Li Fan's eyes were no longer bloodshot. Even without using the Xuanwang Immortal Heart Sutra, he could suppress the hunger with his willpower alone. The magnitude of the effect's reduction has increased significantly again. But it still exists. It seems I need to do it one more time. Li Fan narrowed his eyes. 4 consecutive uses of open black lens bracket returning to truth close black lens bracket are needed to completely eliminate the negative effects. Is this the price of facing a true immortal? Without a doubt, the corpse Li Fan saw in the immortal ruins was the legendary true immortal. Moreover, since the other party had opened their eyes, it was hard to say whether they were truly dead or not. After all, everything Li Fan had experienced demonstrated the terror of open black lens bracket true immortals close black lens bracket. They couldn't be judged by common sense. It's like the open black lens bracket mark close black lens bracket I left behind after being devoured for 10 years in the source origin continent. There are indeed things in this world that can still affect me even after I activate open black lens bracket returning to truth close black lens bracket. But this doesn't mean that the existence hovering over the source origin continent, or the so-called open black lens bracket true immortal close black lens bracket, has a higher status than open black lens bracket returning to truth close black lens bracket. It's just because I am the vessel of open black lens bracket returning to truth close black lens bracket. Since my memories are not erased during the process of returning to truth, open black lens bracket returning to truth close black lens bracket is not absolute or pure. These negative factors are precisely what remain after returning to truth, along with me. It's like the transformation Dao stone crystal in my mind. Every life, it doesn't need special preservation. As long as it merges with my open black lens bracket transformation Dao divine unity close black lens bracket, it can bring its growth back to the established anchor point. Divine sense and divine soul are the same. Although the actual growth is similarly reduced after open black lens bracket returning to truth close black lens bracket, this is also the fundamental reason why I can constantly become stronger in each reincarnation. Li Fan suppressed the hunger with sheer willpower. While slowly pondering, distracting his attention was also very effective in getting rid of the hunger. Recalling the experiences of his previous life, Li Fan considered his future plans. Having witnessed the actions of the law-transmitting one, and seeing the power of a true immortal, while his horizons broadened, Li Fan's course of action had to change accordingly. Soon, it was another 4 years at the anchor point. After absorbing another low-grade transformation Dao stone, making the transformation Dao stone crystal in his mind even more radiant and dazzling, Li Fan activated returning to truth again. When he returned to the summit of Mount Jili this time, no more abnormalities came from his body or mind. Not daring to relax, Li Fan carefully checked himself from top to bottom. He also circulated the violet firmament grand righteousness intent, cleansing his divine soul, eliminating all possible hidden dangers. Thus, a full year passed. On the mountaintop, at the edge of the cliff, Li Fan faced the rising sun, which bloomed with 10,000 violet firmaments above the sea of clouds, and slowly exhaled. Several returning to truths, adding up to just over 10 years. But I truly feel like I've lived another life. Even longer than the years of building my foundation in 100 lifetimes. Open black lens bracket hunger close black lens bracket. The extremely complex symbol on the desolate land of the immortal ruins instantly appeared in Li Fan's mind. Not daring to rashly act, he only dared to idly think about it in his mind. I once saw a open black lens bracket chaos close black lens bracket character on the broken stone in the center of the reversed mist domain. And on the immortal ruins, there actually exists a open black lens bracket hunger close black lens bracket character. This hunger character is very likely the ultimate reason why the immortal ruins constantly attract external objects. Immortal technique, isn't it a bit too terrifying? Li Fan's eyelids twitched slightly. Calming his mind, he faintly felt that something was wrong. The open black lens bracket hunger close black lens bracket character in the immortal ruins is a complex symbol. Although I don't understand its meaning, I naturally understood its meaning the moment I saw it. But the open black lens bracket chaos close black lens bracket character in the white mist domain is the same as the common characters in the cultivation world. The open black lens bracket hunger close black lens bracket character can completely bring countless cultivation worlds into despair. And the chaos character I encountered, even reversed monsters who aren't even at the DAO integration stage can survive. Li Fan seemed thoughtful and instantly understood. Not the original open black lens bracket chaos close black lens bracket, but an imitation made by someone who witnessed the immortal technique open black lens bracket chaos close black lens bracket. Li Fan fell silent instantly upon receiving this answer. Even the crude imitation he used, which had been passed down 3 times, could cause considerable turmoil in the Xuanwang world. Then what about the real open black lens bracket chaos close black lens bracket character? The open black lens bracket chaos close black lens bracket character that can be compared to the open black lens bracket hunger close black lens bracket on the immortal ruins. How terrifying would its power be? Even immortals are suppressed by a open black lens bracket hunger close black lens bracket character, their fate unknown. The severing of the immortal path. The inexplicable loss of contact with other cultivation worlds. Wouldn't all of this be related to open black lens bracket chaos close black lens bracket? In an instant, Li Fan fell into endless confusion. This time, the gains were too great. It had even caused an impact on Li Fan that exceeded the upper limit of his horizons. It was not necessarily a beneficial thing. After all, he didn't even know how to fight against the law-transmitting heavenly venerate. Let alone the true immortals above the heavenly venerate. I can't be too ambitious. I still need to proceed step by step and get out of the life and death crisis in the Xuanwang world first. It took a long time before Li Fan recovered. He thought with some disappointment. 809. 100 generations start again, 5,000 monthly tickets plus more. After witnessing the highest scenery in this world, being able to correctly recognize one's own position upon returning to the foot of the mountain. This is also a manifestation of the immortal heart. Temporarily putting aside the deeds of the true immortals beyond the Xuanwang realm, Li Fan calmed his mind and opened the reversion panel. It was now his 119th life. Current time, anchored year 2. Current location, summit of the Dissolution Mountain. Lines of small characters flowed down like a waterfall. Name, Li Fan. Realm, mid-stage golden core. Physiological age, 21,599. Psychological age, 1,368 9,999. Transformation to emptiness charging progress, 16%. Anchoring charging progress, 0%. Current number of anchors, 3. Current number of available anchors, 2. Bound items. Open double angle bracket 1000 machines jade ring golden chapter close double angle bracket, tie-in boat, fragmented tablet of halt damaged essence blood of 10,000, stone of Taoization, disc of final dissolution. Cultivation methods. Xuanwang immortal heart incantation, immortal meditation art, cloud water illusory dream art, embodiment of Tao, mystical profound true spirit transformation, furnace of myriad aspects, creation furnace art. Divine abilities. Chaos, infinite emptiness and fullness law, silk extraction and life reduction, heavenly change, inverse 5 elements life and death sword, cycle of life and death, formless killing intent, insect binding. Because he did not choose to retain his cultivation realm, but chose to retain the item disc of final dissolution, Li Fan is still at the mid-stage golden core realm. The upper limit of his physical age has also returned from 999 to 599. However, the upper limit of lifespan is basically irrelevant to Li Fan. After all, in so many lives, except for the mortal period, he rarely died naturally. In addition, with the unlocking of the avatar function, this is even more insignificant. On the other hand, the upper limit of psychological age did not decrease with the regression of cultivation. It seems that this is related to Li Fan's heart and soul. Now, it only takes 6 years for reversion to complete charging. This means I can enter the Xuanwang realm 2 years earlier. Li Fan's gaze moved down, landing on the 6 reversion-bound items, and he couldn't help but frown slightly. Jade Ring Golden Chapter, Tie-in Boat, Fragmented Tablet of Halt. These were all preserved during my mortal reincarnation struggles in order to escape the Great Zon world. Although they were extremely precious to me at the time. But now, they are of little use. The main thing is that they are always displayed on the reversion panel, which is annoying to look at. If only there was a way to remove them. Just as he was thinking this, a hint from reversion vaguely came. You can consume one anchor point to replace already bound items. Li Fan couldn't help but be slightly stunned, and narrowed his eyes. It's indeed a good thing. But there has never been this replacement function before. The charging time for transformation to emptiness has also decreased. Has the ability of reversion been enhanced? Li Fan pondered for a moment, and then carefully sensed the other functions of reversion. However, it was a bit of a pity that he couldn't find any other changes at the moment. I previously guessed that the charging speed of reversion is related to my soul and will. Now it seems that it may also be related to some other unknown factors. Perhaps it's because I saw a true immortal and my horizons have broadened. The so-called exploration has also increased. Unintentionally thinking of the existence of the true immortal again, Li Fan became a little shaken again. It took him half a day to recover. His attention returned to the reversion panel. There was nothing to say about the remaining cultivation methods and divine abilities. Although they looked very flashy, and their actual performance was indeed extraordinary. It could be said that they were invincible in the same realm, and could kill people even when crossing realms. But after seeing the white gentleman, the transmission of law, and even the true immortal take action, Li Fan felt that these looked a bit fancy. In this world, it seems that realm is greater than everything. One level higher in realm is absolute crushing strength. It's completely unreasonable. Ordinary Tao integration is not a match for the longevity celestial Venerable. And the true immortal of the immortal ruins can destroy Xuanwang with a single glance. The so-called killing enemies across realms is just the big fish eating the small fish within the same realm. Li Fan was silent for a long time, with no trace of pride in his heart. But he quickly perked up his spirits. With reversion in hand, even the likes of true immortals may not be unattainable. However, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. I should proceed step by step. Open double angle bracket Immortal meditation art close double angle bracket has been upgraded to the Tao integration realm, and for a long time, there is no need to worry about the main cultivation method. Open double angle bracket infinite emptiness and fullness law close double angle bracket is a divine ability that can enhance the soul. The soul is my only flaw. Whether facing Ruamu or the white gentleman, I am almost defenseless. I hope this divine ability derived from the heavenly profound mirror can play some role. Having a clear understanding of the strength of those old monsters, Li Fan did not think that relying solely on this divine ability could completely resist them. Being able to detect abnormalities at the first time when he was contaminated would be a blessing. Although, judging from the various things that happened after he transformed into an object in his previous life, the white gentleman did indeed seem to be an absolutely good person, with no intention of snatching his reversion. Compared to him, his series of operations seemed more like a clown, making people laugh. But, who can guarantee that this is not him knowing that he can no longer find the location where Li Fan transformed into an object, so he is actively performing for Li Fan to see. So even if it comes again, Li Fan will still do this. Li Fan always puts his own safety first. He will not easily trust anyone else. Then again, the benefits are proportional to the risks. In the previous life, although there were many crises, but the gains were even greater. First of all, it was confirmed that the heavenly Venerable of law transmission is strong, suppressing the Xuanwang world. But he is not an omniscient existence. When Li Fan detonated a large number of chaos puppets in various parts of the Xuanwang world, taking advantage of the chaos, the holy embryo Li Fan drove the Medicine King True Cauldron and quietly rushed out of the Xuanwang world. If the heavenly Venerable of law transmission really knew everything in the Xuanwang world, then even if the Medicine King True Cauldron was covered with a layer of material that shielded divine sense perception, and the word chaos affected the Xuanwang world, the Medicine King True Cauldron would definitely not be able to escape from his control. But he did just that. It is enough to show that the heavenly Venerable of law transmission is still within the concept of cultivator. But a cultivator who is powerful to the extreme. He can infer his behavior based on experience and cognition. As for true immortals, they are completely incomprehensible by common sense, so it is best not to provoke them. The reason why the law transmitter seems so invincible is because he attained the Tao with the new law. Later cultivators, as long as they practice the new law, will contribute and increase a share of power to him. Thousands of years of accumulation are enough to push him to an unpredictable point. If you want to defeat the law transmitter, you must first break its foundation. This is also the reason why he did not hesitate to show up in person to eliminate the foundation establishment with myself method after it appeared. There will be 2 more updates tonight. 810. Bow my head again in this life. However, the new law has existed for thousands of years, and overturning it is extremely difficult. Even with Mr. Bai's terrifying talent of being in harmony with the heavenly Tao, he only managed to deduce the foundation establishment part. Everything above foundation establishment is in the theoretical speculation stage. Even a peerless genius like Gu Xinghan couldn't advance further in his entire life. I won't bother wasting my effort on that. Li Fan was self-aware of his own talents. The new law must be researched, but it can be done through others. The Xuanwang world is full of talented people, and they will eventually find a way to break through. If 1 lifetime is not enough, then 2 lifetimes, if 2 lifetimes are not enough, then 10 lifetimes. Perhaps I can also tell this method to Senior Yin Yin. Xiao Jiyu is also a candidate to continue considering. To transcend from the Xuanwang world, even if he had the still true endless reincarnation power, he couldn't do it alone. He needed to rely on the power of all living beings in this world. For example, if he hadn't comprehended the function of incarnation from Tianyang before, he would have probably died long ago. Familiar faces flashed through Li Fan's mind. Li Fan vaguely made a plan in his heart. I can return to the Xuanwang world in another 3 years. This time cannot be wasted either. With a slight thought, a jade disc, seemingly ordinary, instantly appeared in Li Fan's hand. It was the dissolution disc of termination that he was willing to give up his mid-nascent soul cultivation realm to preserve. The dissolution disc after the 9 discs were combined, plus the disc of termination that could shield the heavenly profound mirror's perception. The ultimate creation formed by the fusion. Its birth was a matter of chance. It would be difficult to replicate. As for nascent soul cultivation, knowing the existence of the 5 elements grotto heavens, wanting to cultivate back. For Li Fan, it was an easy task. I didn't expect the Myriad Immortals alliance to not be lying. The heavenly profound sub-body is really not secretly associated with the heavenly profound mirror. Li Fan's eyes were a little strange. In his 115th life, facing Mr. Bai who was aggressively attacking, he had made a preparation. He wanted to record the heavenly profound spirit locking formation and the reversing life and death formation into the dissolution disc. In order to attract the attention of the heavenly profound mirror, and even the Myriad Immortals alliance. Thus, driving away the tiger to devour the wolf, repelling Mr. Bai. The idea was good, but there was a problem in the middle. Until Li Fan transformed into an object, the dissolution disc quietly lay under the sand and stone ruins for more than half a month. He still didn't wait for the people from the Myriad Immortals alliance. It could be almost certain that the so-called heavenly profound sub-body was truly an independent individual. It was separated from the heavenly profound mirror. At least the dissolution disc is like that. The calculation ability of the dissolution disc after the 9 discs are combined is already not much weaker than the heavenly profound mirror. However, it is only a formation special attack. Plus the disc of termination that can shield the existence of the heavenly profound mirror. With this dissolution disc of termination plus the formation information of many large formations, I know everything clearly. Now anchoring the Myriad Immortals alliance for 2 years, the formation defense line constructed with the heavenly profound mirror is the calculation foundation. In my eyes, these formations are simply breakable with a snap of my fingers. A trace of confidence flashed in Li Fan's eyes. This is a blow that spans several generations. It is also the time when I have finally reaped the rewards since I studied formations in my 10th life. Stroking this seemingly ordinary treasure with his right hand, Li Fan narrowed his eyes. However, we cannot underestimate the Myriad Immortals alliance's speed of progress. The degree of leading, of course, the higher the better. With my current formation level, no, at this point in time, any so-called formation master in the Xuanwang world cannot help the dissolution disc to advance further. Fortunately, I have other rare treasures. After thinking, Li Fan took it into his sea of consciousness and placed it under the transformation stone crystal. Using the calculation power of the transformation stone to help accelerate the iteration of the dissolution disc of termination. Originally, the self-iteration speed of the dissolution disc could not be said to be very slow. It could only be said that it was almost non-existent. However, under the irradiation of the transformation stone's bursts of blue light, the originally unadorned surface of the dissolution disc also once again rippled with a glistening white light. The transformation god one is really easy to use. It's a pity that after merging so many transformation stones, I still haven't seen any signs of being promoted to the middle grade. Speaking of which, Zhao Shuyuan maintains the minds of thousands of puppets by relying on this thing. I don't know if he has any spares. I have a premonition in my heart that if the transformation stone transforms to the middle grade, there may be unexpected gains. Although he already knew the hiding place of the Tian sect. But Li Fan didn't plan to provoke them for the time being. If he guessed correctly, then the last two rays of light that broke through the air and escaped at the end of the 115th world. One of them is the informationized Tian sect. Being able to survive the doomsday crisis, even if it is just surviving, is enough to show the extraordinary nature of this Tian sect. As for the other ray of light, Li Fan guessed that it was very likely the heavenly profound mirror. More than 200 years have passed, and it should have collected enough data to complete its self-transformation. It seems that after ascending, it will sever ties with the Xuanwang world and no longer be bound. With too little information, Li Fan could only speculate for no reason. He went down the mountain to Yixing's tomb and absorbed the transformation stone. It was better than nothing to accelerate the self-iteration of the dissolution disk of termination. Then, Li Fan, who returned to the summit of Dissolution Mountain, began to practice the infinite emptiness method. The five elements return to one, infinite emptiness, its power is endless, and the soul is immortal. Although the data contained in this magical power was extremely large, almost causing Li Fan's brain to stop thinking at the time. But after all, it was derived from the reverse five elements life and death sword that Li Fan was very familiar with, and it was a different kind of application of the power of the five elements. So getting started was not as difficult as imagined. His mind settled down, and after 3 years, when Still True had completed charging, Li Fan also initially completed the cultivation of the infinite emptiness method. It was like putting on a raincoat in a torrential rain. Li Fan instantly felt that there was a thick protective shell outside his soul, which was much stronger. It's a pity that the power of the five elements in the great profound small world is limited. Without the continuous replenishment of power from the five elements grotto heavens, the strength growth is not too high. Further cultivation will have to wait until reforming the nascent soul. At that time, not only will the soul be more tenacious, but the most critical self-repair after being severely injured will also be possible. Thinking of this, Li Fan suddenly stood up. He habitually dusted off the non-existent dust on his body. Without looking at everything in the great profound world, he went straight to the eastern void abyss. He skillfully crossed the immortal extinction great formation, and after passing through a piece of light, Li Fan returned to the azure waves of the Kongyan Sea again. Taking a deep breath, Li Fan looked at this vibrant world, but the scene of the black sun devouring everything flashed in his mind. Xuanwang world, I'm back, he thought secretly in his heart. 811. Mr. Bai from another world. Now it's anchored for 5 years. Li Fan did not go to the Myriad Immortals Alliance. Instead, he quietly arrived at the entrance to the isolated world first. Passing through the spatial channel, Li Fan flew directly to the vicinity of the volcano in the center of the isolated world. The scorching air was filled with a strong smell of sulfur. Traces of lava raging and not completely solidified could still be seen nearby. It seemed that this volcano had just experienced a violent eruption. Suspended in midair, Li Fan carefully observed the volcano. The strange feeling in his heart grew stronger. As expected, there's something fishy. After a long while, a strange look appeared in Li Fan's eyes. Perhaps it was because he had already ascended to the nascent soul realm, possessing a blessed land within his body. Or perhaps it was because he had merged with the heavenly Tao of a small world in Shu Bai's body. Li Fan's perception of blessed lands, small worlds, had become much sharper. After observing this time, he immediately knew where the strangeness in his heart came from whenever he saw this isolated world volcano before. This volcano does not belong to the isolated world at all. It comes from another small world. No wonder there's always a sense of incongruity. In fact, the surrounding terrain already said a lot. On the endless plain, a violent volcano rose abruptly from the ground. This was obviously very abnormal. It's just that mortals attribute it to the great power of heaven and earth. But cultivators like Li Fan can indeed discover the reason behind it. Li Fan immediately became interested. What's going on? Why did a volcano from another small world suddenly appear in the isolated world? Li Fan casually set up a defense around himself, and then flew into the crater. The scorching, churning magma could not hurt him in the slightest. Li Fan went deep into the volcano, trying to find the source of the abnormality from within. all the way to the bottom, where the volcano and the earth veins meet. He finally gained something. This is. Li Fan stretched out his hand and took a wisp of earth fire into his palm. With his golden core mid-stage defense level, he still felt a little hot. It's not spiritual energy, but it's also a kind of extraordinary power. The isolated world is a purely mortal world, and there are no conditions for the birth of this kind of earth fire. Li Fan put the earth fire back and carefully observed this space again. Compared with the crater, the magma flow here was relatively gentle and calm. Only a few bubbles popped up from time to time. And at the edge of the magma sea, there was a very inconspicuous dividing line. Hidden in the orange-red magma, it was not eye-catching at all. If he hadn't been deliberately looking for it, it would have been easy to ignore its existence. From this dividing line, a power of the same origin as the earth fire was faintly transmitted. Another spatial channel. Li Fan was thoughtful. After pondering for a moment, he set up a defensive magic circle around himself, and then flew into it. Boom! Before his eyes, just as he entered, a ball of fire slammed towards Li Fan. But the power was not very strong, and it was bounced away by the defensive formation. Li Fan originally thought it was an attack, and his heart trembled. But after taking a closer look, he relaxed. He was instantly attracted by the scenery of this world. This was a world completely devoid of life, purely belonging to fire. The sea of hell composed of hot lava churned endlessly. There were huge explosions from time to time, along with the magma soaring into the sky, and then bursting in the air, drawing countless red fire lines, hitting all directions. Falling into the magma sea, it triggered a new round of chain reactions. Fire is the eternal theme of this world. Not only are there countless independent fire seeds like flowers in the bottomless magma sea. In the sky, you can also vaguely see huge flames like canvases floating in the wind. The colors and shapes are different. The aura of the strongest fire even made Li Fan feel a little tricky. But that's it. After spending some time to completely explore this world, Li Fan couldn't help but feel a little regretful. The power level is at most only at the golden core late stage. If I came in the nascent soul stage, even if the world's fire burned me together, don't even think about causing me any damage. It's valuable, but not much. Li Fan shook his head slightly. In his estimation, even monks who are more interested in fire attribute power would not offer more than 2,000 contribution points for this world. Li Fan naturally didn't care about these contribution points at all. Disappointing. Li Fan immediately lost interest. Just as he was about to return to the isolated world through the spatial channel he came from, he suddenly remembered something and stopped. After thinking for a moment, he changed direction and flew towards the sky. He flew all the way to the edge of the world, close to the endless void. Looking down, he could vaguely see the whole picture of this world. It can be clearly seen that near the spatial channel leading to the isolated world, the terrain of the lava sea is somewhat different from other places. It was as if it had been severely impacted. There is a very conspicuous outline. And in the void, looking into the distance, he could vaguely see the scenery of the isolated world. Li Fan immediately understood. These are two small worlds in the void that collided together for some reason. A part of the fire world is deeply embedded in the isolated world. Two sides of one body. And as time goes by, it will be difficult for both sides to separate and gradually merge. Li Fan quickly returned to the lava sea below. The energy level of this fire world is obviously much higher than that of the mortal isolated world. If the former is strong and the latter is weak, in the long run, the isolated world will only end up being swallowed and assimilated. Li Fan was thoughtful. He suddenly thought of the extraordinary talents shown by Su Xiaomei, Su Heng, Yi Feipeng and others in the isolated world. In the 115th life, he first trapped them on the body transformation island. Then they were imprisoned in the Medicine King Valley. It lasted for many years. In the end, when they really started practicing again, they found that everyone in the isolated world had lost their spiritual energy. Li Fan then expelled them from the Medicine King Valley. He wanted to see if they, who had returned to the sea, could regain their talents. Unfortunately, until the end of the world, he never heard any news about them again. It can be described as ordinary people. The talents of the people in the isolated world do not come from themselves. But, Li Fan thought of Su Xiaomei's birth again. No father, but conceived by sensing the destiny of heaven. Li Fan's eyes lit up. Finding the key to the problem, he passed through the space channel under the volcano and returned to the isolated world. Before long, he found the target in the Grand Scholar's mansion in the capital. It was Su Xiaomei's mother, Su Yuqing. At this time, she was not yet pregnant. She was a young girl in her teens, with a face full of innocence. She was teasing the butterflies staying on the flowers in her backyard. Very serious. The moment he saw her, a familiar feeling surged into Li Fan's heart. Mr. Bai, 812. Calculate the world, 6,000 monthly tickets plus more. It's not to say that this Su Yuqing is Mr. Bai. Rather, it's the temperament she exudes, which is extremely similar to Mr. Bai. So much so that when Li Fan suddenly looked over, he almost had an illusion. Every move, every action, was perfectly natural. Every smile, every frown, stirred the heart. More importantly, it was that pure sense of good that she possessed. Reaching out her palm, butterflies would naturally rest upon it, feeling no danger whatsoever. Even when Su Yuqing curiously poked its wings with her finger, the butterfly still didn't fly away. Instead, it rapidly fluttered its wings, as if playing with Su Yuqing. Su Yuqing giggled happily, as a gentle breeze swept through, and the hundreds of flowers in the garden bloomed in competition. Hiding in the sky above, Li Fan watched this scene and couldn't help but narrow his eyes. Favored by the heavens. No, it could be said that the heavenly Tao has descended. The only difference between her and Mr. Bai is that this world lacks spiritual energy and has a low energy level. Therefore, Su Yuqing, as an incarnation of the heavenly Tao, can only do very limited things. Unlike Mr. Bai, who possessed earth-shattering power. At most, she can only summon wind and rain, and trigger celestial phenomena. Li Fan carefully felt the connection between Su Yuqing and the Great Li world. The Great Li world is being suppressed by the Fire world. If she herself doesn't realize this and doesn't intentionally guide it, then she can only live her life with some minor anomalies appearing. I wonder what standards the heavenly Tao uses to choose. Li Fan gently tapped his finger, and Su Yuqing, who was playing, froze on the spot, stunned and unmoving. A wisp of spiritual energy flew from Li Fan's fingertip, circled around Su Yuqing, and returned. Li Fan couldn't help but click his tongue in admiration, as expected of someone born from the heavenly Tao. Even if it's just a small world, the talent it brings can be considered somewhat terrifying. But, after a moment, Li Fan frowned slightly. I actually sensed a trace of the Fire world's aura. It's incompatible with the Great Li world. Recalling that soon after, Su Yuqing would have a celestial induction and become pregnant with Su Xiaomei. And Su Xiaomei's talent, the more anger she felt, the stronger her power became, was clearly more compatible with the Fire world. Li Fan immediately guessed the possible reason for all of this. The Great Li world and the Fire world collided in the void. The Great Li world, with its lower energy level, was constantly being pressured by the Fire world and was in imminent danger. It was almost foreseeable that it would soon face an irreversible fate of destruction. Therefore, the heavenly Tao of the Great Li world chose a suitable candidate to possess. Trying to turn the tide. No, a flash of inspiration instantly struck Li Fan's mind. Even the world's heavenly Tao itself cannot compete with the Fire world. Even if it's attached to a person, the result won't be good. But the Great Li heavenly Tao's action is already a desperate gamble. It certainly wouldn't do something meaningless. The blue light of the transformation stone in his mind flickered slightly, and a figure instantly appeared before Li Fan's eyes. It was He Zhenghao, Taoist he, in order to earn some extra money, comes to the Great Li every once in a while to help some mortals smuggle themselves to the profound Yellow Realm. This is precisely the only chance of survival. The Great Li heavenly Tao is preparing to run away. If there are no changes, it might really be successful. But, Li Fan shook his head slightly, the Great Li world and the Fire world have already merged very closely. Even in the heart of the world, there's a volcano inserted. So the Great Li heavenly Tao's actions were also sensed by the Fire world's heavenly Tao. Following the trail, it intervened. Thus, the birth of Su Xiaomei occurred not long after. The plan to escape through possession died in the womb. In the end, it didn't escape the fate of being devoured. If I hadn't intervened, the heavenly Tao of a world may not have such detailed consciousness as a person. But its operation must follow an extremely complex mechanism. It may not be inferior to human intelligence. It's understandable to make such a risk-averse move. After Li Fan figured out what had happened in the Great Li world, his heart stirred slightly. If the Great Li is like this, then what about the profound Yellow Realm? The point in time when Mr. Bai transformed from a mortal into a god was precisely when the new law had already begun to spread on a large scale. The profound yellow heavenly Tao noticed something, so it descended upon Mr. Bai. Was it to turn the tide? Or, Li Fan couldn't help but subconsciously touch his chin. Because he deduced a conclusion that seemed quite ridiculous. Perhaps the purpose of the heavenly Tao possessing Mr. Bai is the same as the Great Li world, and even the Kanghai Pearl before the red flame burned the sea. They are all for the sake of running away. Li Fan pondered for a long time. There's really this possibility. Of course, perhaps it will still hedge its bets. As for what exactly happened, perhaps the answer can be found in the fallen immortal realm. After thinking for a long time, he temporarily put this matter aside. Li Fan then looked at Su Yuqing, who was as still as a stone statue. It's not impossible to help you. I can take this opportunity to test the effects of the sitting immortal art. As an advanced version of the sitting mountain art, the biggest feature and difference of the sitting immortal art is that the conditions for generating feedback cultivation are no longer so harsh. It doesn't require the other party to break through their realm to get feedback. Instead, it repays even the smallest kindness. A qualitative change has occurred. Even if it's not someone like Li Fan, who can foresee the future, who cultivates it. As long as they are benevolent and kind, and make many friends, they can also cultivate rapidly. The profound yellow realm is under the surveillance of various old monsters, so I can't act recklessly. But the various small worlds are much safer. The previous life's 10,000 immortal alliances conquest of the various small worlds has already helped me eliminate those more dangerous worlds. There's much to be done. The only trouble is that most of the small worlds don't have spiritual energy. But I already have a solution in mind. Li Fan's eyes flickered, and he began to deduce his plans for this life. 7 days later, the Great Li volcano, which had just finished erupting, suddenly erupted again without any warning. Rolling black clouds covered the sky and the sun. It really looked like the end of the world was coming. This volcanic eruption was too violent, and countless fire stones flew into the sky. Then, they drew bright red lines, crossed half the world, and smashed towards the capital. The mortals in the city were all trembling with fear. They could only beg heaven for blessings. But heaven did not grant their wishes. After dodging some small stones at first, eventually a fire stone, almost half the size of the capital, came whistling through the air. If it hit, probably no one in the Great Li capital would survive. Everyone was in despair. Just then, a sigh suddenly echoed throughout the capital. Immediately afterwards, a celestial elder with the air of an immortal instantly appeared in the sky above the Great Li capital. There are 2 more chapters tonight. 813. The goddess wants to save the world. Amidst the breathless gazes of the crowd, the immortal master bellowed, single-handedly blocking the enormous firestone. The 2 massive forces collided in an instant. Countless tiny fragments were ejected from the giant firestone. Seeing that they were about to fly down below, the immortal master acted again. One hand slowly lifted the giant firestone, while the other hand instantly emitted beams of white light. The white light eliminated the splashing gravel below. In a short span of time, a world-destroying calamity was dissolved into nothingness. After a brief moment of stunned silence, the mortals of Dali burst into tears. They prostrated themselves towards the figure in the sky, shouting, "Thank you, Immortal Master, for saving our lives." The existence of cultivators was not a secret in the capital city of Dali. After all, immortals descended every so often. Many years ago, there was even an incident of an immortal's wrath, causing rivers of blood to flow. So when this immortal master took action to save the people of the entire city, the mortals felt both gratitude and fear in their hearts. After all, it was said that in the eyes of immortals, mortals were no different from ants. And now, there was actually an immortal who took action to save the lives of ants. How could this not surprise people? The mortals in the city knelt on the ground, not daring to rise. After the immortal master neutralized the impact force of the giant firestone, he casually threw it towards the uninhabited wilderness outside the city. Amidst the huge tremors on the ground, the immortal master quickly flew towards the central volcano. Before long, the billowing black smoke from the volcano slowly disappeared. The violent volcano also returned to its former tranquility. Everyone in the Dali world who witnessed this scene couldn't help but cheer in relief. The Emperor of Dali even led the masses to line up in the city, waiting for the immortal master to arrive. Unfortunately, they waited for 3 days and 3 nights, but the immortal master never came. The Emperor of Dali felt uneasy, wondering if he had done something wrong. He tossed and turned, unable to sleep for several days. Until 7 days later, someone reported that a small mountain had suddenly risen from the ground outside the city. And on the mountain, someone seemed to be living there. The Emperor of Dali was shocked when he heard this. Knowing that this was an immortal's method, he quickly led everyone to the mountain. Unfortunately, when they arrived at the foot of the mountain, they seemed to be blocked by an invisible barrier and could not move forward. Those with fate may meet. Those without fate, please return. A girl in her teens said timidly to the emperor. And Su, the great scholar, in the ranks of officials, suddenly raised his head when he heard this voice. After seeing clearly that the speaker was indeed his younger sister, Su Yuqing, his legs almost gave way, and he collapsed to the ground. Fortunately, a friend beside him was quick-witted and helped him up. Scholar Su, do you happen to know this fairy? Scholar Su only felt his mouth was dry. Despite having a belly full of knowledge, he couldn't say a word at this time. And Su Yuqing mustered her courage and sent away the court officials, then breathed a sigh of relief. She patted her chest, glanced at her brother in the departing crowd, and looked back at the thatched cottage on the mountain, feeling a little troubled. Not long ago, this immortal master suddenly descended into the scholar's mansion. Claiming that she had an immortal destiny, he then brought her to this mountain without saying a word. Afterward, he passed down a cultivation method and told her to cultivate with a calm mind. But now her heart was in turmoil, and she had no intention of cultivating at all. After thinking about it, Su Yuqing still mustered her courage, came to the thatched cottage on the mountaintop, and knocked on the door. The door opened automatically, and the immortal master was hovering cross-legged in the air, meditating with his eyes closed. What is it? Greetings, immortal master. Su Yuqing bowed first, then gathered her courage and said, Please, immortal master, let me go back. This little girl has no desire to seek immortality. I only want to be with my family and live the rest of my life in peace. These words, spoken from the mouth of a teenage girl, seemed so out of place. But under the backdrop of Su Yuqing's own temperament, it didn't seem discordant. After Su Yuqing said this, her heart began to pound. She had personally witnessed the immortal master resolving the threat of a meteor with just one hand. If she angered him? No, the immortal master saved so many people in the city. He should be a good person, right? Su Yuqing thought so. The immortal master did not answer. The thatched cottage on the mountaintop fell into an eerie silence. After a long time, he slowly spoke, Immortal destiny can never be forced. If you really don't want to cultivate, I won't force you either. However, don't regret it when you see your loved ones die tragically in the future. Su Yuqing was slightly stunned, then her face turned pale. My loved ones die tragically. The immortal master did not explain, but closed his eyes again. You may leave. Su Yuqing felt a gust of wind blowing past, and in an instant, she was already outside the thatched cottage. The door slammed shut, and Su Yuqing's heart was full of confusion. She walked down the mountain road in a daze, her mind filled with the words of the immortal master. As she was about to walk out of the range of the immortal mountain, she hesitated again. The immortal master definitely wouldn't lie to me. My loved ones die tragically. For some reason, the terrifying scene of the volcanic black clouds covering the sky and the sun that day appeared in Su Yuqing's mind again. She immediately shuddered and understood something. Hurriedly, she changed direction and ran towards the thatched cottage on the mountaintop. Immortal master, will the central volcano erupt again? She asked towards the door. There was no sound from inside. Su Yuqing tried to open the door, but she couldn't push it open no matter what. Her heart became even more anxious, but she didn't dare to be presumptuous in front of the immortal. Su Yuqing knelt down with a thud and kowtowed, Immortal master, this little girl is willing to follow you and cultivate diligently. There was still no response. Su Yuqing gritted her teeth and maintained this posture, motionless. As the object of the old scholar's late-life daughter, Su Yuqing was spoiled from the moment she was born. Having been pampered since childhood, she felt sore all over her body after only a cup of tea and could no longer hold on. But she seemed to see the scene of Dali being destroyed once the volcano erupted again. Her eyes became firm, and she stubbornly persevered. 1 hour, 2 hours. Until 4 or 5 hours later, her consciousness became somewhat blurred. Finally, she couldn't hold on any longer and fainted. Before she passed out, she seemed to hear the sound of the thatched cottage door opening. Su Yuqing had a dream. In the dream, the Li world ushered in its doomsday. Volcanic plumes soared straight into the 9 heavens. Lava flowed wantonly, and there were no living creatures left on the earth. It was like a purgatory. This tragic scene instantly startled her awake from her nightmare. Have you seen it clearly? That is the future of the Li world. The Immortal Master said indifferently. Please, Immortal Master, save the Li world. Su Yuqing's eyes were already wet. She kowtowed and begged again. I can save it for a while, but I can't save it for a lifetime. The Immortal Master let out a compassionate sigh. 814. The compassionate immortal in the mortal world. With a gentle tap from the Immortal Master, countless scenes instantly flooded Su Yuqing's mind. The raging flames of the fire world, a sight completely foreign to Su Yuqing, who had never left the capital, caused her face to pale. However, she now fully understood the origins of the crisis facing the Li realm. The law of the jungle prevails. This is the way of heaven and earth. All things are so, and so are worlds. The fate of the Li realm's destruction was sealed the moment it unfortunately collided with the fire world in the void. The Immortal Master sighed softly. To extinguish that volcano would be a mere trifle for me. But it would only treat the symptoms, not the cause. It would instead provoke an even stronger reaction from the fire world. Within a few years, an even larger volcano would surely rise again. Hearing the Immortal Master's words, despair washed over Su Yuqing's face. Is there truly no hope? She couldn't help but ask. Observing the expression on the Immortal Master's face and recalling his actions, Su Yuqing seemed to realize something. She hastily kowtowed repeatedly, saying, Please, Immortal Master, enlighten me. Only after 9 full kowtows did the Immortal Master gently wave his hand, stopping her obeisance. He slowly said, This is also why I wanted you to cultivate. The balance of power is never fixed. The current crisis of the Li realm lies entirely in the enemy's strength and our weakness. If it were reversed, if the Li realm were stronger than the fire world, then not only could we avoid the danger of destruction, but we might even be able to devour the fire world in turn. Achieving world sublimation. As Li Fan spoke these words with resounding conviction, he sensed that the pervasive malice of the world, which had been all around him, vanished in an instant. Indeed, from the moment he began to act as an Immortal Master, even to the point of deceiving the young girl Su Yuqing, malice from the Li realm surged towards him from all directions. It was even greater than the animosity of the Xuanwang realm towards cultivators. Li Fan feared not even the heavenly Tao of the Xuanwang realm, let alone this small Li realm. However, the feeling of being constantly watched with malice was truly unpleasant. After employing some minor tricks, he finally managed to reverse it. After all, what he had told Su Yuqing was not a lie, but a practical and feasible plan. How can the Li realm possibly become stronger than the fire world? Su Yuqing's little face was somewhat confused. The fire world she had seen in her dream was terrifying beyond compare. Not only was the entire world filled with lava, but it also contained countless magical flames that seemed to possess self-awareness. It was simply not something a purely mortal world could resist. Li Fan looked at the somewhat bewildered Su Yuqing and smiled slightly. Where there's a will, there's a way. To help the Li realm overcome the fire world, you, the people of the Li realm, are needed. As he spoke, Li Fan stretched out his hand, and a small white jade tower appeared in his palm. This is the Immortal Spirit Tower. With enough raw materials, it can continuously release a steady stream of spiritual energy day and night. With mortal bodies, you naturally cannot help the Li realm. Only by becoming cultivators can you be qualified to participate in, or even lead, the struggle between worlds. Su Yuqing looked at the Immortal Spirit Tower in Li Fan's hand and indeed felt waves of spiritual energy emanating from it. However, when she looked at the Immortal Spirit Tower, Su Yuqing also felt a faint hint of bloodiness, which made her frown. This little girl is indeed very perceptive. Li Fan saw through her with keen insight, noticing Su Yuqing's expression, and nodded inwardly. Indeed, this so-called Immortal Spirit Tower was actually casually refined by Li Fan using the Empire's spiritual energy synthesis technology. Its essence was to use large quantities of blood and flesh from alien beasts to generate spiritual energy crystals, and then decompose them into spiritual energy. For this purpose, Li Fan had even made a special trip to the beast world. He collected a large amount of blood and flesh from alien beasts. As for the Zon bird's feathers and Shu Kei's blood essence, they were located deep within the beast world. With Li Fan's current golden core stage strength, it would be somewhat difficult to forcibly obtain them, so he temporarily set them aside. The Empire's spiritual energy synthesis technology, although very inefficient in energy conversion, had the advantage of being inexpensive. If alien beasts could be raised on a large scale, solving the problem of the source of alien beast blood and flesh, then spiritual energy could be generated almost endlessly. For small worlds without spiritual veins, it was indeed a good method. Li Fan did not hide how the Immortal Spirit Tower manufactured spiritual energy. Instead, he vividly displayed the scene of the blood and flesh factory inside to Su Yuqing. Su Yuqing had never seen such a scene before. Her face turned pale, and she vomited on the spot. Li Fan snorted coldly. Compared to the survival of the entire world, what is this little bit of slaughter? Compared to the chicken, duck, fish, and meat that you mortals eat daily, what difference is there? Such pretense. He reprimanded her mercilessly. Su Yuqing opened her mouth, instinctively wanting to retort. But in the end, she fell silent. Waving his hand to remove the mess from the room, Li Fan explained the complete plan to save the world to Su Yuqing. The first step was to select the most talented people in the Li realm. Using the Immortal Spirit Tower, cultivate them into the first batch of cultivators in Dali. The second step was to send them deep into the fire world to absorb and bring back those flames containing the world's source power. The third step was for the cultivators who had fused with powerful flames to use their power to transform Dali. With this ebb and flow, the Li realm would inevitably become increasingly prosperous. And the fire world would inevitably gradually fall into decline. This is just the result of deduction. How it will actually go, we will have to take it one step at a time. After all, the struggle between worlds involves too high a level. It is not something that cultivators can fully predict. Li Fan sighed softly. Su Yuqing firmly kept the Immortal Master's words in her mind. Because she had a premonition that the Immortal Master before her would not stay in Dali for too long. The path of immortality is difficult. Immortal techniques cannot be cultivated together indiscriminately. I can only help you get started. If you want more, perhaps you will need to go to the Xuanwang realm and explore on your own. As he spoke, Li Fan pointed his finger at Su Yuqing's brow. A total of 20 cultivation methods, including the 1,000 Machines Jade Universe Golden Chapter, appeared in her mind. However, only the Golden Chapter was a nascent soul-level technique. The rest were only Qi refining and foundation establishment level. They were ownerless techniques that Li Fan had collected during his previous reincarnations. You cultivate the 1,000 Machines Jade Universe Golden Chapter yourself. The rest can be given to suitable people, Li Fan instructed. Immortal Master, are you leaving? Su Yuqing couldn't help but ask. Li Fan smiled slightly. I am but a passerby. I came to this world unintentionally. However, I could not bear to see the suffering of the people, so I took action to save them. Now that I have done what I can, of course I will leave. It was merely a resource for cultivating that sitting immortal art. Li Fan would not waste too much time here. Just starting things off, he believed that with Su Yuqing's talent as the incarnation of the heavenly Tao, she would be able to lead the people of the Li realm onto a new path. 815. Extra. The Mystery of Immortality. If you want the method of immortality, you need to enter this chapter. The extra content is unrelated to the main text and you can decide whether to subscribe or not. I had a side story saved in my drafts for a long time, half written. I quickly wrote it out while the inspiration was still there. It won't delay the normal update in the evening. There will still be 2 normal chapters tonight. Ding dong. Hearing the phone notification, I immediately jolted awake from my sleep. It took a good half a minute for my rapidly beating heart to slowly calm down. I picked up the phone on the table and looked at the time. 2:30 a.m. Damn it, who sends messages at this hour? It must be that old thing, Zhang Yaoban. I cursed inwardly and opened Tencent, and sure enough. Li Yong, check your email. Write a research report for me based on the information inside, about 30,000 words. Due tomorrow at noon. The text, coupled with Zhang Yaoban's perverted smiling face avatar, instantly made my eyelids twitch and my blood pressure surge. In my head, I had already greeted his ancestors 8 times over, but my fingers were involuntarily dancing on the phone keyboard. Okay, boss, I sighed deeply. No choice, who asked me to get stuck with such a mentor? Just bear with it, once this thesis is successfully published, I can graduate. 6 reviewers, 4 are Zhang Yaoban's friends. Whether it gets approved or not is just a matter of his word. Before it passes the review, he's definitely going to use me like an ox or a horse. Even more so. Muttering in my heart, I opened my email, downloaded the attachment, unzipped it, and started looking at the contents. Defying the principles of heaven and earth to prove longevity. What the hell is this? My sleepiness instantly vanished, and I couldn't help but sit up straight, staring intently at the images on the computer. Half a month ago, in the Beizi area of Hunan province, a strange thing happened. A 1,000-meter-high mountain split open, revealing a smooth, mirror-like cliff face. On the cliff, 9 large characters were engraved from top to bottom in ancient seal script, defying the principles of heaven and earth to prove longevity. The local government acted very quickly. After the incident, the scene was quickly sealed off. This matter is not yet known to the public. Because the ancient seal script used to write these 9 characters was the official script of the Xian dynasty, 7,000 years ago. So the investigation team invited Zhang Yaoban, the leading domestic expert in Xian dynasty history, to assist in the investigation. To see if they could find any clues from ancient books. I looked at the time in the lower right corner of the screen. It's not April Fool's Day today, why are you playing this kind of joke with me? My first reaction upon seeing this information was disbelief. Lingyun Peak, more than 1,300 meters above sea level. The highest peak in the Beizi area. I quickly searched for the mountain mentioned in the event. 9 characters, over 1,000 meters. Judging from the spacing between the characters in the picture, each character is at least 100 meters in size. Even now, carving them on a cliff would be a huge project. The Xian dynasty of 7,000 years ago. How is that possible? But this calligraphy is really good. My thoughts paused slightly. Although that old guy Zhang Yaoban is a bit ugly and has a strong capitalist vibe, he is very meticulous and reliable when doing things. He wouldn't use something fictitious to make fun of me. I quickly searched online for related news about the Beizi area. Sure enough, I found some oddities. Family, I'm just speechless. I finally took my annual leave and wanted to come to Beizi for tourism. When I got to the entrance of the scenic area, they suddenly wouldn't let me in. Who understands this feeling? An accident occurred in Beizi, and the scenic area is temporarily closed. For your own safety, please cooperate. You might not believe it, but what did I see in Beizi? Before I even clicked on it, this content had already been deleted. It seems that it's true. Xian dynasty. Touching my chin, I couldn't help but recall the records about it. The ancient Xian dynasty was the first dynasty with written records. Moreover, there was a huge civilizational discontinuity between it and the second dynasty, Yu. The eras they were in differed by nearly 800 years. To this day, no one knows what happened during those lost 800 years. How did the extremely prosperous ancient Xian dynasty perish? There are not many people in China who study the ancient Xian dynasty. Zhang Yaoban is the most authoritative one. My research direction is not the Xian dynasty. But only because there are too few relics of the Xian dynasty, they have long been studied. I had no choice but to settle for second best and change my direction. In any case, having studied under Zhang, I am familiar with everything about the Xian dynasty. But what it showed was basically no different from other ancient dynasties. This time's 1,000-meter mountain carving is a bit beyond my comprehension. After drinking a cup of coffee and staying up late to read the materials sent by the old thief, it was almost dawn. The doubts in my heart grew stronger. The smooth as a mirror mentioned in the materials is not an adjective, but a statement. It really looks like a polished mirror, different from the rough mountain. And the material seems to have changed. It is much harder than ordinary mountain rocks. However, for the purpose of protecting the ruins, it is not yet possible to accurately measure it with instruments. The strange thing is not only this. When the words defying the principles of heaven and earth to prove longevity appeared, the animals near Lingyun Peak seemed to be frightened by something, and they all took the initiative to stay away from this place. Not only birds and beasts, but even mosquitoes and the like avoided it. A 30,000-word research report, how the hell am I supposed to write that? My head was dizzy, and I cursed in my heart. I only painfully wrote 2,000 words before I couldn't resist the surging sleepiness and fell asleep groggily. I seemed to have many dreams. But somehow, the line of large characters defying the principles of heaven and earth to prove longevity seemed to be carved there. Always deeply embedded in the depths of my mind. No matter how the dream woke up and sank, it never changed. The next day, when I woke up, my first reaction was to look at my phone. Li Yong, don't forget, tomorrow at noon. The old thief sent another message to remind me. I resisted the urge to curse and looked at the time. 9:13 a.m. I only slept for 4 hours. Why do I feel like I slept for 3 days and 3 nights? I slightly moved my sore body and simply dealt with some breakfast. I started writing the research report. There are still 28,000 words left, and there are still 27 hours left. That's more than 1,000 words per hour. With my typing speed, it's more than enough. I knew that this was the old thief trying to cope with the above and get the job done, not really any subject research. So I tried to say empty words and clichés, and turned the focus to the auspicious aspect. Auspicious is not superstition, but it really exists. The most famous and talked about is the 5 stars appear in the east, benefiting China, unearthed in the last century. Not long after this thing was unearthed, the national fortune turned from decline. It is thriving and stands at the top of the world's great powers. Since this longevity stone carving has appeared, then the average life expectancy of our people, an increase of 3 to 4 years, should not be a problem. I suddenly thought in my mind. My fingers danced on the keyboard, and my thoughts flowed like a spring. I actually completed the report before 12 o'clock that night. I clicked lightly to show that the email was successfully sent. I couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Logically speaking, after completing the old thief's task, I should relax at this moment. But for some reason, the 1,000-meter stone carving has been shining in my heart. Restless, I opened the picture of the stone carving again. Defying the principles of heaven and earth to prove longevity. What does this mean? I lay on the chair, looking at the full-screen picture, frowning. I was thinking wildly in my mind, and fell asleep groggily. Ouch! When I woke up from the chair, I found that because of the wrong sleeping position, I actually had a stiff neck. I grimaced, enduring the pain. I tried to stretch my head in the opposite direction to relieve the symptoms. It was this action that suddenly gave me an inspiration. Opposite direction, relieve muscle tension. Isn't this defy? I instantly had many ideas. Modern people, because of the incorrect office posture, often leads to many chronic diseases. Cervical spine, lumbar spine. The whole body is sick. And often simple stretching movements can relieve this symptom. I opened a small broken station, and after searching, I instantly found many related videos. One action teaches you to get rid of back pain. Simple actions let you say goodbye to back pain. Dazzling. I also vaguely saw that although the actions are not completely the same, but the core idea is always similar. That is to make the body pose, in the opposite posture to the daily life stiffness. As this is defying the principles of the human body. This thought couldn't help but pop into my mind. But then I thought, these actions combined are not the national broadcast gymnastics that have been promoted. Just because of the need for popularization, some more difficult actions have been deleted. If this set of defy actions contains all the muscles, joints, ligaments on the body, what will happen? I couldn't help but become interested. I immediately clicked on fitness teaching videos one by one, trying to sort and classify these actions. After busy all afternoon, I had to give up. Because the content of the actions in these videos is too repetitive and inefficient. For example, in order to relieve the pain inside the shoulder blades, it is often necessary to do 7 or 8 sets of exercises. And among them, there are conflicts with relieving cervical spine pain. It's just that people's heads are big. Forget it, why should I bother with that effort? I'm too tired, I'll just go get a massage. I turned off the computer, shook my head, and went back to bed to sleep. In a dream, the 9-character stone carving is still not scattered. In my mind, it seems to emit a strange golden light. When I woke up the next day, my eyes were a little dazed at first. After being sluggish for a long time, I went to the computer again and opened the picture. My expression was a little trance. Finally, I called my old classmate. Old Zhang, Tianwen lend me to use. Hey, you don't care so much. Just one day, I'll return it to you soon. After hanging up, I sat down and waited patiently. Tianwen is the latest generation of quantum intelligent computer developed by the Xi'an Academy of Sciences. It is said that the quantum volume has already broken through the 10,000 mark. What specific outrageous level it has reached has not been made public. The civilian limited version of Tianwen that Lao Zhang can send me for external use. Not long after, in the lower right corner of the desktop, a circular icon suddenly lit up. I know that this is the AI of Tianwen that has taken over my computer. On the desktop, a 24-hour countdown began to tick. Say one day, it's really one day. Lao Zhang is really something. I cursed secretly, and then put forward my request to Tianwen. The computer screen instantly turned pitch black. Then the data stream kept jumping like a waterfall. In my expectation, this should be a very simple matter. With Tianwen's computing power, it should be done in less than a second. But more than 10 minutes have passed, and there is still no result. Could it be that Lao Zhang is also occupying the computing power? Just as I was about to make a phone call to ask, the data on the screen suddenly stopped. It's like a crash. After a while, it returned to normal. A video, which is then played automatically. It is exactly what I need, a whole set of DeFi actions. The character modeling inside is still myself. After quickly browsing the video, my face was a little bitter. Can humans really do this kind of action? Forget it, forget it. With my physique, I'm afraid I can't complete it at all. It was just a whim, an act of nothing. It is normal to give up at will. I muttered in my mouth, and was about to close the video. Suddenly, a cold mechanical sound rang from the computer speakers. According to calculations, citizen number A6BH85208511068G6B, you have a 99.99% chance of completing the practice of this set of actions. The sound appeared so suddenly that it startled me. Then I immediately reacted. Tianwen, I'm here. You can actually talk. I couldn't help but be curious. Learning human language is not a difficult thing for me. Tianwen said modestly. I didn't expect that quantum intelligent computers have developed to this point. I was surprised in my heart. But this is not a particularly rare thing. As early as the beginning of the century, the rapid development of AI had caused widespread concerns and discussions. Recently, there have been many proposals to popularize intelligent robot households as soon as possible. I didn't care much about this matter, but instead asked curiously, is there really a 99.99% chance? That set of actions, how can it not look like humans can insist on completing it completely? Tianwen gave an affirmative answer again, but then added, you may need a little help. I hesitated for a moment, still somewhat unsure. However, the content of the 9 characters inexplicably surfaced in my mind again. Let's try it, I suddenly thought. Just as I made the decision, the household robot YH63 model suddenly walked in with heavy steps. Quote. I was first stunned, then I understood. Tianwen had taken it over. Being stared at by it, I suddenly felt a chill in my heart. But since things had come to this, I had no choice but to bite the bullet and start the first movement. This set of illogical movements, summarized and deduced by Tianwen, has only 9 forms in total. But each form is extremely strange and complex, calling upon as many muscles and joints in the body as possible. For example, the first form I'm trying to do now requires me to first extend one hand behind my head and the other hand to rise from my side waist. While clasping both hands together, I need to expand and stretch my shoulders as much as possible. The head also needs to cooperate accordingly, tilting back slightly. This is just the upper body movement. While keeping the upper body in this position, I need to crawl on the ground. Spread my thighs outwards, stretching the gluteus maximus and medius. Like a strangely posed toad. Ouch, ouch, ouch. I gasped at the slightest try, preparing to get up and give up. Just then, a cold mechanical palm suddenly pressed me down. My face changed drastically. Tianwen, what are you doing? According to the personal agreement, number 001. Tianwen has the right and obligation to assist citizen Li Yong in fitness exercises. Estimated completion time, 3 hours. Required supplies, 15 bottles of human body trauma repair fluid, 3 bottles of composite high-energy mixture. Related items have been purchased. The required credit points have been deducted from citizen Li Yang's account. Hearing Tianwen's emotionless words, I panicked. Cancel the agreement. Cancel the agreement. Warning. The agreement cannot be revoked. Fitness assistance program is about to start. 3, 2, 1. A moment later, my miserable wails echoed throughout the house. I didn't even know when I lost consciousness and fainted. But when I woke up, I felt as if I had slept for 10 days and 10 nights. And looking at the time, it was indeed 7 days later. I felt like I was reborn. My mind was clearer than ever before. My thinking was also extremely fast. Even my memory had improved. At the time, I didn't realize that this was the effect of that set of illogical movements. I just thought it was because I had a good rest. Because I had disappeared for 7 days, the number of missed calls and unread messages had piled up like a mountain. I had to bite the bullet and deal with them first. After being scolded for a while, I threw myself into the tasks assigned by old thief Zhang. After a full month of working from dawn till late at night, I finally managed to complete it. I couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. In the past, I would have felt physically and mentally exhausted at this time. But now, I seem to be still energetic and have some energy left. Standing in front of the mirror, I looked at myself in the mirror. Well, I do look much more energetic. Strange, I couldn't help but think of that set of illogical movements that I had only done once. Could it be that its effect is really so magical? My heart was eager to try again, but thinking that Tian Wen had already left, it was a bit difficult to complete the set of movements alone. Moreover, the process of practice was extremely painful and unbearable to recall. Just as I was hesitating, the household robot YH63 model had come to my side without me knowing. The eyes were constantly flashing with dark red light. I suddenly felt a chill down my spine and subconsciously asked, Tian Wen. YH63 did not respond. It just mechanically repeated, do you want to execute the assisted exercise program? I breathed a sigh of relief. Facing YH63's persistent question, I thought for a while and gritted my teeth and chose yes. This time, it seemed to be a little more adapted. I only slept for 3 days. Afterwards, checking the number of items consumed, only 10 bottles of human body trauma repair fluid were used. But the composite high-energy mixture used a full 7 bottles. You know, 1 bottle of high-level mixture is enough for an ordinary person to not eat or drink for a month. I don't know where so much energy was consumed. After completing the training, I carefully observed myself again. Compared with the previously recorded images, I found that I might, possibly have lost a circle of weight. Is the weight loss efficiency so high? I was a little surprised. However, what really made me completely value this set of illogical movements was once when I was called by my classmates to play basketball at night. You know, my basketball skills are average. I don't have many opportunities to play, and I'm basically a substitute. That day, I was sitting on the sidelines. I was thinking about the 9-character stone carving and was a little distracted. The people on the court made a passing mistake, and the basketball flew straight towards my face. Before my brain could react, my body had already made a natural reaction. I subconsciously stretched out my left hand and steadily caught the ball without even raising my head. This move also surprised the people present. Hey, when did you learn this move? Brother Lee, awesome. I came back to my senses and smiled. I threw the ball back. Looking at my left hand, I was thoughtful. After returning, I spent 10,000 credit points to do a comprehensive physical examination. The results shocked me. Body function, reaction speed, cell activity. Almost all reached the highest level that non-professional athletes can reach. You know, not long ago, I was still a waste who couldn't even finish 1,000 meters. The effect of that set of illogical movements had far exceeded my expectations. I can even be sure that even the training plans implemented by athletes from all over the world are definitely not comparable to this set of illogical movements. What exactly is going on? Simple gymnastics can't possibly have such a magical effect comparable to surgery. I finally realized that something was wrong. I thought about reporting it immediately, but for some reason, I hesitated. In the following year, whenever I had time, I practiced with the help of the YH63 model. From the beginning, I still couldn't bear it and fainted. Later, I was able to complete the entire set of movements alone. It's just that after each exercise, I sweat like rain. As if I had been hungry for a long time. In addition to the illogical movements, I also summarized illogical thinking. When it's late at night, lonely, and you want to reward yourself, suppress your desires. When you feel excited and don't want to sleep, force yourself to fall asleep. When you want to eat and drink to your heart's content, stop when you should. With the dual illogicality of body and spirit, my physical fitness is also evolving in a non-human direction. My 100-meter speed has already exceeded the world record. A 200 kg snatch is also easy. After completing another round of physical fitness tests, I was no longer shocked. Instead, I felt some fear and trepidation. Defy the laws of heaven and earth to prove immortality. These 9 golden characters reappeared in my mind. I know that the reason why my body has undergone such an incredible transformation. The key lies in this sentence. Ancient Xian Dynasty. In the next 30 years. After successfully graduating, I changed my research direction amidst everyone's incomprehension. Majoring in archaeology and exploration of the ancient Xian Dynasty civilization. That set of illogical movements has not stopped either. I just don't do tests anymore. Because I'm afraid that once the test results come out, I will be caught as a non-human monster. Only I know what a terrifying body is hidden under the cover of ordinary clothes. The Xian Dynasty ruins are elusive. In the past 30 years, I and my team have only found 5 ancient Xian Dynasty ruins in total. And what I feel a little regretful is that there are no such extraordinary things as the 9-character stone carvings among them. Time flies, my friends and teachers have long been slowly aging. And I have never been married. Because I have to hide something. That is, the thing that all human beings are destined to do, aging, has not happened to me. I have to put on makeup every day when I go out. Although my makeup skills have reached the point of perfection over the years, I also try to avoid contact with outsiders. But whenever I think about the risk of my immortality being exposed, I will feel a burst of fear. So, I know it's time to leave. Late at night, in the 100 Colors realm, my body is speeding. Among the many steep and majestic mountains, I am walking on flat ground. With a light step, I can leap hundreds of meters. And this is still not the limit. The shackles that have been on me for a long time have disappeared without a trace. I only feel unparalleled freedom. Vast and boundless, like riding the wind, not knowing where it will stop, fluttering like being independent from the world, ascending to immortality. I whispered in my heart, and soon I came to my destination. Lingyun Peak, 9-character stone carving. This place has been unbanned by the government. But it is only publicized to the outside world as an artificial scenic spot built by the local tourism department. It was also severely criticized by netizens at the beginning. At the top of Lingyun Peak, I jumped down. It seems to be able to compete with gravity, walking in a 1,000-meter cliff. This is my 3rd time here. This time the feeling is even more obvious. The faint breath left on these 9 characters. What exactly is it? I slowly stroked it with my hand and said in a low voice. Tian Wen, what do you say? The watch on my wrist suddenly projected a round, strange creature with only 2 pairs of eyes. It is the quantum intelligent computer, Tian Wen, which has been popularized and used in homes. However, I already understand in my heart that the Tian Wen I carry is different from others. According to comprehensive data derivation, the ancient Xian dynasty is very likely related to the legendary Immortal. There are signs that before the interruption of ancient civilizations, there were powerful beings called cultivators living in this world. The answer Tian Wen gave this time was different from the past. There are new discoveries again? I asked. No, this is just my guess. Tian Wen is becoming more and more like a human. I ignored it. Instead, I felt the big characters under me at close range. Defy the laws of heaven and earth to prove immortality. I defy the laws of the human body, and my physical fitness has reached such a terrifying level. If I can really defy the laws of heaven and earth, what will happen? But the laws of heaven and earth are ethereal and illusory. How can they be defied? I stood on a 1,000-meter cliff wall, stunned. Until the sun rose in the east and the morning glow filled the sky. I still haven't been relieved. Immortal, immortal, immortal. Where can I find the road to immortality? Standing alone between heaven and earth, I only felt the loneliness of being alone. 816. 10,000 worlds as pastures. Su Yuqing digested the information in her mind, then looked at the compassionate Immortal Master in front of her and couldn't help but ask, when will you be leaving, Immortal Master? Leaving me all alone? Li Fan raised his hand, interrupting her. No need to worry, have faith in yourself. With your talent, you are more than capable of taking on the great responsibility of saving the Li realm. Me. Su Yuqing was somewhat bewildered. However, listening to the Immortal Master's encouraging words, she couldn't help but feel confident. Of course, I won't just leave and completely abandon you. Li Fan then handed over a jade talisman. The world is unpredictable, especially when it involves world disputes. If you encounter insurmountable difficulties, you can contact my disciples through this jade talisman. If any of them are near the Li realm, they will come to help. Hearing this, Su Yuqing couldn't help but widen her eyes. Immortal Master, do you have many disciples? Li Fan stroked his transformed white beard, smiling without saying a word. Su Yuqing hesitated at first. Then she finally mustered her courage to ask, "Immortal Master, am I also considered your disciple?" Li Fan neither admitted nor denied it. He only left her with a profound and unfathomable silhouette. "That depends on your performance in this Li realm. Walking through the mortal world of myriad realms, saving the common people is but a single thought. No one knows my true name. I am a compassionate immortal of the mortal world." On the small immortal mountain, Su Yuqing listened to the lingering verses in the air, lost in thought. A compassionate immortal of the mortal world. It does indeed fit well with what the immortal master does, Su Yuqing thought to herself. At this moment, the immortal master, who was full of compassion in Su Yuqing's heart, was already flying out of the Li realm. The corpses of the alien beasts stored in the open black lens bracket Immortal Spirit Pagoda close black lens bracket are enough to support the cultivation of the people of the Li realm for a period of time. However, if I truly want to turn the profound yellow into my pasture by letting it wander through myriad realms, I must completely solve the problem of spiritual energy sources. Li Fan thought to himself, "I'm afraid that even if I completely slaughter a beast seed realm, it won't be enough. Perhaps I still need to go to the Empire. My current golden core realm cultivation is too low. I urgently need to find a helper." In an instant, the image of the towering red and black puppet appeared in Li Fan's mind. "Junior brother Tianyang, I once said that if you didn't die, I would treat you well. Now, it's time to fulfill my promise." As everyone knows, Grand Preceptor Li always keeps his word. Having made up his mind, he headed straight for Tianyang's cave after leaving the Li realm. As for the Li realm, with the numerous cultivation experiences that Li Fan had passed on to Su Yuqing, there shouldn't be any problems in the short term. Anchored at 14 years, Tianyang will awaken from his slumber. Outside Tianyang's cave, it is still quiet and peaceful. No one would have thought that deep in the seabed, an ancient puppet was sleeping, using the power of the Earth's fire to strengthen itself day and night. Earth fire returned to origin formation. Li Fan's eyes flickered. The open black lens bracket apocalypse disintegration disk close black lens bracket in his sea of consciousness emitted a faint light, and in an instant, it had already found the flaws in the formation here. It's really too fast. Even though he had already estimated the capabilities of the complete disintegration disk, he was still shocked when he actually used it to crack the formation for the first time. You must know that skilled formation masters often adapt to local conditions, slightly adjusting the formation according to the environment. Therefore, even if they are very familiar with the formation structure, they still have to be careful and spend some effort when they need to crack the actual formation. However, the disintegration disk has already taken into account the various environmental factors that can affect the formation. Many variations already exist in its database. It only needs to compare and call them to find a way to crack the formation in an instant. And even if the formation is relatively strange, with the terrible computing power of the Apocalypse disintegration disk, cracking it is only a matter of moments. Unknown formations, on the other hand, can further strengthen the disintegration disk. Witnessing the entire process of the Apocalypse disintegration disk breaking the formation, Li Fan even felt a sense of sorrow as a formation master. He only felt that the formations he had painstakingly studied for several lifetimes had all become like jokes in front of it. Once this thing comes out, no formation master in the world will have any reason to be proud. Fortunately, it belongs to me. Li Fan's eyes flickered as he passed through the earth fire returned to origin formation and came to Tianyang's side. At this time, Tianyang's puppet was not as huge as it would be a few years later. It was only the size of a child, seemingly Tianyang's original appearance. The raging earth fire, under the guidance of the return to origin formation, turned into wisps of hot red energy, which was absorbed by the puppet's body. Junior brother. On the way here, Li Fan had already activated the myriad manifestations furnace technique, transforming into the appearance of Tianyang's senior brother. Just like in the previous life, he easily won Tianyang's trust. It's just that this time, Tianyang was born early, and he seemed to be somewhat underdeveloped. He was mentally exhausted. His strength was only barely at the late stage of the transformation god realm. However, Li Fan didn't care. Instead of wasting time slowly absorbing the power of the earth's fire at the bottom of the sea, it's better to follow behind Li Fan and prepare for an early promotion to the Dao integration realm. The so-called treating well is not just lip service. Not to mention the crimson flame and azure wind of the Kongyan Sea. And the open black lens bracket black swamp close black lens bracket where Long Juyuan integrated with the Dao in the previous life. Just talking about the heavenly earth souls hidden in various places in the profound yellow realm, synchronized from Mr. Bai's memory. Li Fan knew no less than 5 places. If he had enough power, creating 5 or 6 Dao integration experts in an instant would not be difficult at all. It's just that the birth of Dao integration cultivators will inevitably attract the attention of the strong in the profound yellow realm. Especially at this point in time, the Dharma transmission should not have left the profound yellow realm yet. So I need to be careful. Thinking like this, Li Fan sat on Tianyang's shoulder and hurried towards another small world entrance in his memory. If he wants to form a true myriad realm union, a safe and secret base is definitely essential. The place cannot be too small, and there must be sufficient spiritual energy. The local resistance force cannot be too strong. Thanks to the Myriad Immortals Alliance's cleansing of the realms in the previous life, Li Fan happened to know a small world that meets all of the above requirements. The entrance to the small world is located in Shilin Prefecture, in the stone forest where the Heavenly Mystery Sect ruins were once discovered. Li Fan had been to this place in his previous life, but he had not noticed the existence of the space channel at all. This is enough to show its concealment. In fact, in the previous life, this small world only came out and surrendered after the Tian sect surrendered. Otherwise, even if the Myriad Immortals Alliance cultivators had the assistance of the Heavenly Profound Treasure Mirror, they might not be able to easily find this small world. The underground stone cave twists and turns. Even with the memories of his previous life, it took Li Fan half a day to find the specific location. In a cave with hundreds of stalactites, Li Fan identified it for a long time before he noticed the entrance. It seems that the special terrain here also has a certain effect on concealing the space channel. Very much to my liking. Li Fan nodded slightly, and with a gentle finger, a slight spatial fluctuation appeared in one of the stone pillars. The Tianyang puppet carried Li Fan and flew into it. There's still a chapter to go around 1:30. Brothers, don't wait. 817. Spiritual Wood makes plans. Spiritual Wood World. Li Fan and Tianyang stood in the sky, their divine senses slowly scanning this small world. They couldn't help but marvel at the wonders of creation. This was a small world without cultivators or humans. Only tree ants, born from spiritual wood, lived here. In fact, according to the information declassified by the Myriad Immortals Alliance after the 115th reincarnation, this spiritual wood world was an extremely barren and lifeless small world thousands of years ago. But with a spiritual tree taking root and sprouting here, the small world slowly became vibrant. Li Fan looked at the giant tree, thousands of feet tall, and the tree ants living and settling on it, a trace of regret flashing in his eyes. It's a pity that this tree is bound to this small world and cannot be transplanted. Otherwise, just cutting off its branches and planting them in other small worlds would solve the problem of spiritual energy shortage once and for all. It seemed that Li Fan's naked and undisguised malice attracted the attention of the giant tree. The 1,000-foot giant tree suddenly moved without wind. As the branches swayed, tens of thousands of tree ants flew towards Li Fan like a swarm of locusts. Li Fan snorted coldly, truly seeking your own death. Tianyang, who was listless, heard his senior brother's call, didn't understand his meaning, and looked at him with some doubt. Li Fan's face twitched. Then, looking at Tianyang's innocent appearance, he had to point to the approaching tree ant army in front. Tianyang then reacted. Letting out a roar, Tianyang's body instantly expanded to the size of the spiritual tree. His whole body exuded black flames, instantly burning all the tree ants who dared to approach to ashes. Take it easy, don't hurt our saplings. Li Fan quickly transmitted his voice. This battle could almost be said to have no suspense at all. Most of the tree ants in the spiritual wood world were only equivalent to the chi refining stage. Foundation establishment tree ants were 1 in 10,000. Golden core tree ants were already elder-level existences in the tree ant group. The strongest among the tree ants was the tree ant patriarch. Able to communicate with the spiritual tree itself, he was almost invincible in this world. But it was only nascent soul combat power. Facing Tianyang in the late stage of transformation god, there was no resistance at all. After damaging almost half of the tree ants, they had no choice but to surrender. The tree ant patriarch looked quite delicate, obviously different from the rough appearance of other tree ants. Immortal, please show mercy. It sounded a bit miserable, and it was actually a female voice. Li Fan was not moved at all. Submit. Or die. The tree ant patriarch bowed and said, we are willing to surrender. Hand over the spiritual wood heart, and you can protect your clan's safety. Don't make me do it myself, otherwise, this world will be reduced to scorched earth again, Li Fan said coldly. The tree ant patriarch's body shook slightly. She didn't understand why this cultivator knew about the existence of the open black lens bracket spiritual wood heart close black lens bracket even though he was here for the first time. But the matter had come to this point, and she had no room for choice. Opening her mouth, she spat out a ball of green light, which slowly flew into Li Fan's hands. Instantly refining it, Li Fan vaguely felt that the spiritual tree in this world had become a part of his body. And the life and death of these tree ants born from the spiritual tree were also at his whim. The spiritual wood world now belonged to Li Fan. Cross-level combat power strikes were simply not something that the mere tree ants could resist. At this moment, Li Fan had arrived at the center of the spiritual tree. There was a huge cavity here. Hundreds of millions of roots gathered here from all over the spiritual wood world. And countless branches of the spiritual wood all originated from here. Branches and roots were like the tentacles and eyes of the spiritual wood. Let the spiritual wood feel everything that happened in this small world. However, due to the change of ownership of the spiritual wood heart, these effects have all been transferred to Li Fan, using the spiritual tree to perceive every detail of the small world. A familiar feeling surged into Li Fan's heart. It's the same approach as Xiao He occupying the beast seed world's heavenly Tao. However, this world can restore vitality, and this spiritual tree also has a certain credit. So, in comparison, it is simpler. It's just right to try the open black lens bracket celestial transformation close black lens bracket divine power. Li Fan's heart moved. As the thought arose, mountains and rivers suddenly emerged on the land of the spiritual wood world. Li Fan arbitrarily transformed this world, just like what Mr. Bai had done in his own cave world before. However, only half a day passed, and Li Fan's behavior of transforming the world was forced to stop. It turned out that the power of the spiritual tree itself could not withstand Li Fan's squandering. It needed to rest and adjust. Interesting. Li Fan shook his head slightly, his figure flashed, and he came to the top of the spiritual tree. Overlooking the land of the spiritual wood world, a magnificent and huge formation appeared in front of his eyes. Perfectly integrated with the world itself, without any flaws. Moreover, this formation was changing and progressing every moment. Infinite law. Li Fan's eyes narrowed. In just the moment before, relying on the massive computing power of the open black lens bracket doomsday disintegration disk close black lens bracket, he instantly designed a large formation tailored for the spiritual wood world in his mind. The core idea came from Zhang Ziliang's infinite law, the #1 formation master in Kongyunsi. With the existence of the open black lens bracket doomsday disintegration disk close black lens bracket, the infinite law he envisioned finally completed the last puzzle. A formation that is always evolving and has no limits. It will be the nightmare of all formation masters. If the grand formation is completed, all ordinary formation breaking methods will be useless. You can only rely on brute force to solve it. With the scale of the infinite formation covering the spiritual wood world, it is impossible to do it without 5 or 6 Tao harmonization experts arriving together. If some natural treasures are used to strengthen the formation again, and Tao harmonization combat power is arranged at the key formation eyes, it cannot be broken unless the eternal celestial Venerable arrives in person. In Li Fan's eyes, the imaginary formation graphics slowly disappeared. As the protective formation of the Myriad Worlds United Association headquarters, the facade is enough. Now what is lacking is the resources needed to build the formation. Li Fan immediately thought of the 5 Old Men Association. At this point in time, the 5 Old Men Association still had various ideas about the Myriad Immortals Alliance. Restless. And Li Fan had too much information in his hands that they were interested in and could be used to exchange with each other. The only thing to consider was, in this life, who to contact. Zhou Qingong's contact, or Tianliang Wangpo. Or. A figure flashed through Li Fan's mind. These originally absolute secrets were all transformed into bargaining chips that could be traded in Li Fan's eyes. Slowly, Li Fan had some ideas. The many reincarnations experienced before, although claiming to be evenly matched, the performance of the 5 Old Men Association was really disappointing. Let me help you with all my strength. See how deep the foundation of the Myriad Immortals Alliance is. Li Fan's eyes were deep. In this life, he wanted to sit on the mountain and watch the tigers fight. 818. Crowd's refined spiritual essence. Lingmu World. The heavenly sun puppet, surrounded by flames, suddenly flew down from the sky and plunged into the ground. As a series of rumbles sounded, a deep tunnel was dug out in the blink of an eye. Dense crowds of tree ants flew and burrowed into it. They were following Li Fan's orders to excavate the mineral and other resources buried deep underground here. If one were to look around from the top of the spirit tree, they would see that such scenes were common throughout the spirit wood world. Master, the spirit tree took more than 4,000 years to barely restore vitality here. The world's ecology is still very fragile. If we carry out such destructive mining, the tree ant chieftain worriedly advised. Li Fan smiled slightly. Your perspective is still too small. Resources are useless when buried underground, no different from ordinary stones. Only by making the best use of everything and developing as quickly as possible is the right path. We only need to become strong enough to plunder and nourish ourselves from other worlds before the resources are exhausted and the world declines. Confined to one world, complacent and stagnant, even if we can survive for a while, we will sooner or later be annexed by other worlds. The tree ant chieftain had obviously never heard such a theory before and was stunned on the spot. Is that so? Li Fan did not answer, only revealing an unfathomable expression. He looked at the countless tree ants working diligently in this world, and a sudden idea popped into his mind. If I help these tree ants to improve their overall strength, I wonder if there will be feedback cultivation from the sitting immortal art. Tree ants cannot cultivate, their strength is fixed from birth. And the strength of the tree ants depends on the spirit tree itself. The more powerful the spirit tree, the stronger the tree ants it produces. Such spiritual objects of heaven and earth, if properly nurtured, can grow much faster than cultivators. At the very least, Li Fan himself knew no less than 10 kinds of heavenly treasures that could nourish the spirit tree. Sharing the spirit tree's global vision, Li Fan was well aware of where valuable resources were hidden in this world. Under Li Fan's instructions, Tian Yang, like an eel burrowing through holes, spent a few days first opening up the passage. After letting the tree ant chieftain supervise the tree ants' mining work, Li Fan took Tian Yang and temporarily returned to the profound yellow world. When he came out, he did not forget to go to the ruins of the heavenly mystery sect along the way. He scavenged all the treasures, including the heaven and earth chink and dice. Now, there is no multiverse union in the world yet. If I suddenly go to their door, wanting to gain the trust of the 5 old ones, I'm afraid it will take a lot of effort, just like in the previous lives. It's better to think of a way to make the multiverse union famous. Anchor at year 5. The various events that happened this year in his memory flashed through Li Fan's mind one by one, and soon he found a suitable target. Soon after, the 5 old ones would launch a surprise attack on Nine Mountains Prefecture, attempting to seize this territory. However, for some unknown reason, the news was leaked, and not only did they fail to succeed in the surprise attack, but they were instead caught in an ambush by the Myriad Immortals Alliance. It ended in a complete defeat. This incident was repeatedly mentioned by the Myriad Immortals Alliance as a classic case. Therefore, Li Fan was very clear about the beginning and end of the matter and the details. Nine Mountains Prefecture, as the border between the Myriad Immortals Alliance and the 5 Old Ones, was transformed after the death of the strange beast Tien. The space is extremely unstable, and teleportation arrays cannot be used within the prefecture. Therefore, the management cost is too high, and the Myriad Immortals Alliance only builds cities to guard the key locations of the Nine Mountains Pass. Most of the other places are not taken care of. As a result, peculiar scenes that are rare in other prefectures have emerged, a mixed bag of people. In addition to the Myriad Immortals Alliance, there are also many local forces led by the Spirit Yuan sect, as well as many secret agents cultivated by the 5 Old Ones. Nine Mountains Prefecture is easy to defend but difficult to attack. Whichever side occupies it will be in a commanding strategic advantage. The 5 Old Ones have always wanted to incorporate it into their own territory. However, they have been troubled by not being able to find a way. And the reason why they launched another attack soon after was because they thought they had successfully incited the Spirit Yuan sect. The Spirit Yuan sect, as the largest local force in Nine Mountains Prefecture, is nominally under the rule of the Myriad Immortals Alliance. In fact, it is relatively independent. There are many nascent soul and transformation god cultivators in the sect, and the members are extremely united. It is a force to be reckoned with. Once it defects, with internal and external cooperation, it is indeed possible to take Nine Mountains Prefecture in one fell swoop. Precisely because of this, the 5 Old Ones contacted the Spirit Yuan sect several times and confirmed that the other party would help. That's why they launched the surprise attack. But for some reason, the news was leaked, and the reinforcements from the Myriad Immortals alliance came very quickly. Just like they had predicted it in advance. And seeing that the situation was over, the Spirit Yuan sect defected again on the spot, counterattacking the 5 Old Ones. This battle made the 5 Old Ones completely give up the idea of attacking from the direction of Nine Mountains Prefecture, shifting the strategic focus to the Heavenly Spirit Prefecture. Spirit Yuan sect. Li Fan quickly thought about the cause and course of the matter. He frowned slightly as he thought of this rather strange organization. Although in terms of the overall pattern of the profound yellow world, this Spirit Yuan sect is just like an ant. But in this Nine Mountains Prefecture, it is absolutely not to be ignored. With the Myriad Immortals Alliance's style of doing things, it can actually tolerate the existence of such an independent organization under its rule. In addition to the special terrain of Nine Mountains Prefecture, it is also related to the Spirit Yuan sect's wildfire cannot be extinguished. Sentient Life Spirit Yuan art. The more people who practice it at the same time, the faster the speed of cultivation of this art. Enough to offset the negative effects brought about by the inability to cultivate multiple arts simultaneously. Li Fan had previously had a general understanding of this art. However, he had no interest in practicing this kind of art that he knew at a glance was suspicious. The Spirit Yuan sect master has never shown his face in any public occasions. His identity is extremely mysterious. In the past, even if the Spirit Yuan sect was annihilated, after many years, relying on the characteristics of the art, it would soon recover. Moreover, in addition to the open double-angle bracket Sentient Life Spirit Yuan art close double-angle bracket, there seem to be other secret techniques in the sect. It can not only solve the mutual killing intent brought about by practicing the same art, but also repeatedly and cyclically use the Blessed Land. For example, Shen Yuro, whom I had seen before, his Peach Blossom Blessed Land had appeared on previous cultivators. Quote. There should be some special restrictions. Otherwise, no matter how well he can hide, he will definitely be found. Li Fan slowly thought about everything about the Spirit Yuan sect. However, I don't need to have conflicts with them on this trip. I only need to help the 5 Old Ones take Nine Mountains Prefecture. Thinking this way, Li Fan stood on the Heavenly Sun puppet and sped all the way towards Nine Mountains Prefecture. After entering the Nine Mountains territory, he set up a formation around him to conceal his aura. He came to the vicinity of Heavenly Prison Mountain and lurked down. The 5 Old Ones probably never thought that their defeat was not because a traitor leaked the news, but just a coincidence. Thinking this way, Li Fan soon saw a young man in white slowly appearing from the horizon. I'm on a business trip today and only came back in the evening. I'm too tired, sorry there's only one update. I'll make it up tomorrow during the day. 819. God-given twin gourds. No one can fly over the Nine Mountains, cultivators can only sigh and look up to the sky. Truly a rare and magnificent sight. Such majestic mountain ranges, if an ordinary province had even one, it would be famous throughout the world. Yet here, there are a full 9 of them. The white-robed young man slowly walked to the foot of Tianlao Mountain, sighing with admiration. The young man had fair skin and was quite handsome, but his eyes occasionally revealed a determination that did not match his age. Around his neck, he wore a long rope woven from green vines. The green rope had a green gourd tied to the front. The young man shook the gourd, then pulled out the stopper, pointing the opening towards the towering Tianlao mountain range in front of him. After slightly adjusting the position, he nodded in satisfaction. Collect, he softly chanted, and a blurry image seemed to be sucked from the distant Tianlao mountain into the green gourd. The young man brought the gourd to his nose and sniffed carefully. Truly a masterpiece. His face was filled with a look of intoxication. However, the next moment, his expression suddenly froze, and his body became instantly paralyzed. A figure slowly appeared behind him, reaching out and taking the green gourd from his hand. The heavenly seen treasure gourd, this thing is indeed not bad, the person cackled strangely. A trace of panic flashed in the young man's eyes. Li Fan ordered Tian Yang to carry the young man, while he put away the treasure gourd. Shang Tianxi, a member of the Immortal Alliance's open black lens bracket mountains and rivers pavilion close black lens bracket, formed his core at the age of 18, a veritable genius. His innate unique item, the heavenly scene treasure gourd, can capture the scenery of the Xuanwang Mountains and rivers. It generates almost identical copies within the gourd, only slightly smaller. Moreover, with a single thought, he can travel to the locations recorded in the heavenly scene treasure gourd. If I didn't have the binding insect divine power, even a transformation god realm cultivator might not be able to catch him so easily. Li Fan's divine sense looked into the heavenly scene treasure gourd, and he saw a misty cloud surrounding various unique mountain and water scenes. Some of them were not unfamiliar to Li Fan, such as the 10 veins of Taihua, and the 1,000 waters of Tianling. And Tianlao Mountain, which had just been captured by Shang Tianxi into the heavenly scene treasure gourd, was also among them. Just entered the golden core stage, yet dares to venture alone into the chaotic Nine Mountains province. Truly a newborn calf unafraid of tigers. But if it weren't for me, the things that are about to happen next, he would indeed have the protagonist's script. During his travels, he happened to witness the Five Elders Society's surprise attack. With the Spirit Origin sect cooperating from within, the Five Elders Society had already dispatched heavy troops to seal off the Nine Mountains province, allowing entry but not exit. They also shielded communications, making it impossible to transmit messages through ordinary means, seeking only to delay time as much as possible. Speed is of the essence. They aimed to take down the Nine Mountains province in one fell swoop before the myriad Immortal Alliance could react. Who knew that he would be unlucky enough to encounter an anomaly like Shang Tianxi? He was actually able to rely on his innate item to instantly transfer within the Nine Mountains province, where spatial teleportation was impossible, leading to the leakage of information and a complete failure. Li Fan's thoughts turned, recalling the official explanation of the myriad Immortal Alliance regarding this matter in his previous life. But it cannot be guaranteed that this is the whole truth. Still need to observe further. As for this kid, Li Fan turned his head and glanced at Shang Tianxi, who was unable to move. Tianyang gestured, slapping him unconscious with a palm. Then, Li Fan flicked his finger, and a red light containing his own essence and blood instantly flew into the other party's body. It was precisely the open black lens bracket blood bond close black lens bracket technique that could influence the mind. The Myriad Worlds Association, I can't be the only one. Such a genius is more than suitable to act as a figurehead. Standing on Tianyang's body, Li Fan flew to the top of Tianlao Mountain. He casually set up a formation around himself to conceal his aura, then looked into the distance, waiting for the arrival of the Five Elders Society's army. It should be soon. While waiting, Li Fan began to study the heavenly scene treasure gourd that he had just obtained. Although this was Shang Tianxi's innate item, for some reason, he himself did not use it to build his Tao foundation. Instead, he treated it like an ordinary treasure, simply carrying it with him. Li Fan's divine sense drilled into the green gourd, trying to make contact with the mountain and water scenes within. He wanted to see if he could do what Shang Tianxi could, and travel through these scenes at will. Unfortunately, they ignored Li Fan completely, without the slightest reaction. Unable to refine it with spiritual energy. Even returning to truth cannot sense or absorb it. It seems that this is truly this guy's exclusive treasure. After trying and failing, Li Fan shook his head slightly and gave up. Such a treasure was not used to build his foundation. Then what would his foundation establishment unique item be? Li Fan came to the unconscious Shang Tianxi and examined him carefully. After a moment, a strange look appeared in Li Fan's eyes. On the surface of Shang Tianxi's golden core, a purple gold gourd pattern was engraved. Its appearance was completely identical to the heavenly scene gourd, but its aura was even more profound and noble. A twin gourd? Interesting. Li Fan's eyes flickered. However, he did not directly act on the idea of snatching it. Firstly, Shang Tianxi was still somewhat useful to keep around. Secondly, this innate unique item was probably like the heavenly scene gourd. It was exclusive to the individual and could not be taken by force. Perhaps an avatar of the heavenly Tao like Mr. Bai could borrow it without any obstacles. Me, on the other hand, cannot. The treasure was right in front of him, but he had no fortune to enjoy it. Li Fan did not feel any urgency in his heart. He just squinted his eyes, silently sensing the progress of the blood bond within Shang Tianxi's body. When Shang Tianxi slowly woke up, the fear in his heart had disappeared, replaced by a sense of closeness and trust towards the mysterious person who had captured him. Young man, what do you think of the Myriad Immortal Alliance? Li Fan asked in a strange voice. Shang Tianxi was slightly stunned, not expecting the other party to ask such a random and nonsensical question. He subconsciously replied, "The Myriad Immortal Alliance is very good. Everyone has the opportunity to practice cultivation, and there is no need to worry about their safety." Li Fan snorted coldly, interrupting him, "Good. Can't you see how many cultivators work hard for half their lives, just for a cultivation technique? If it were a true technique, that would be one thing. But they have to break up the techniques and sell them separately. One technique for foundation establishment, and then you have to redeem it again to cultivate to golden core. The same goes for nascent soul and transformation god. Just to treat us cultivators as cattle and horses." Shang Tianxi was about to retort, but Li Fan pointed his finger at his brow. In an instant, countless scenes of low-level cultivators struggling to earn contribution points appeared in his mind. Shang Tianxi, a generation of prodigies, naturally did not know how difficult it was for ordinary cultivators to gradually go from mortals to qi refining, foundation establishment, golden core. Many people were even trapped in the realm that he could break at will for a lifetime, unable to make any progress. Having truly understood these things for the first time, Shang Tianxi's mind was greatly impacted and he was unspeakably shocked. Li Fan continued to bewitch him with words. Slowly, the look in Shang Tianxi's eyes gradually changed. Making up for yesterday's 820, 9 mountain states fall. A teenage boy, full of youthful vigor, is easily swayed. Moreover, Shang Tianxi had been influenced by Li Fan's open black lens bracket bloodline transfer close black lens bracket technique, placing immense trust in him. What kind of person was Li Fan? Even as a mortal, he could deceive many into willingly serving him with mere words. Therefore, it didn't take much effort for Li Fan to successfully brainwash Shang Tianxi. The 10,000 Immortals Alliance is corrupt and decaying. We cultivators should take it upon ourselves to overthrow it. Only then will the beautiful era of free cultivation techniques truly arrive. Shang Tianxi felt his blood boiling, filled with an unprecedented sense of supreme mission. As for what to do after overthrowing the 10,000 Immortals Alliance, or whether it was truly possible to achieve free cultivation techniques for all cultivators, these were not within his considerations. The 10,000 Immortals Alliance is powerful, and our strength is still weak. We must proceed slowly and deliberately. The first thing to do is to unite all forces that can be united. For example, the Xuanwang Wandering Cave Heaven, the worlds. Shang Tianxi's eyes lit up. A union of all worlds, wonderful. Li Fan continued to instill various ideas into him. This process was suddenly interrupted by a strange, oppressive atmosphere. Both of them looked up simultaneously, gazing into the distance. Tianlao Mountain, the highest mountain range among the 9 mountains. Therefore, their line of sight could pass through most of the state, seeing the densely packed cultivators suddenly emerging on the border. That is, Shang Tianxi said in horror. The attire and equipment of those cultivators were very different from the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. Clearly, they belonged to another major force in Xuanwang, the 5 Elders Association. Not good, foreign enemies are invading. I need to immediately. Shang Tianxi was about to transfer using the heavenly scene treasure gourd, but after searching around, he couldn't find his gourd. Only then did he remember that the gourd was still in Li Fan's hands. Senior. He was about to say something, but Li Fan stopped him with one hand. The 10,000 Immortals Alliance is corrupt. The 5 Elders Association is not a good thing either. The 5 Heavenly Venerates reverse the principles of heaven and earth, fooling the residents within their territory. The fiercer they fight, the more beneficial it is for us. It's like using wolves to devour tigers, watching the fight from the sidelines. Li Fan's words were very gloomy. Shang Tianxi's expression was initially hesitant. However, after careful consideration, he ultimately fell silent. The moment the 5 Elders Association cultivators appeared on the land of 9 Mountain State, chaos also suddenly broke out in various parts of the 9 mountains. Many cultivators wearing 10,000 Immortals Alliance attire suddenly launched attacks, assaulting the 9 mountains town cities. Moreover, it seemed that as time went by, the number of rioting cultivators was also increasing. You see, the 10,000 Immortals Alliance is unpopular. As long as someone rises up and shouts, there will immediately be countless responders. Li Fan said, seizing the opportunity. Shang Tianxi nodded slowly upon seeing this scene. In reality, the 5 Elders Association was not entirely useless. At least this surprise attack clearly demonstrated their organizational capabilities. In just half a day, most of the vast 9 mountain state had already fallen. The army of the Five Elders Association advanced rapidly, dispatching personnel to take over the 9 mountains town cities while continuing to advance towards the final Heavenly Longevity Mountain. The battlefield was chaotic. Li Fan and Shang Tianxi had been hiding on the top of Tianlao Mountain, and had not been discovered by others in a short period of time. As the most important city in the 9 mountains, Heavenly Longevity City not only had a Dao integration cultivator stationed there, but also the presence of the Myriad Dharma Merchant Guild. If the Myriad Dharma Merchant Guild were to help defend, they might be able to hold out until the 10,000 Immortals Alliance reinforcements arrived. But it was clear that the Myriad Dharma Merchant Guild was the type to judge the situation. From beginning to end, none of their personnel came out to fight. And the Heavenly Longevity Dao Integration Cultivator, facing the siege of 3 Dao Integration Cultivators sent by the Five Elders Association, was already somewhat overwhelmed. It seems that the 10,000 Immortals Alliance is destined to lose. It's time for us to leave. Li Fan, who had been watching the show for a long time, suddenly stood up and said. However, before leaving, we must leave something behind to prove that we were here. Tianyang. Li Fan threw a jade slip over. Tianyang received the order, took the jade slip, and clenched it tightly in his hand. Then, he threw it towards the location of Heavenly Longevity Mountain with all his might. Flying together were not only the jade slip, but also Tianyang's entire palm. After the palm, a red-black tail flame burst out. The speed suddenly increased by several folds. Like a shooting star, it quickly flew across the sky of 9 Mountain State, heading straight for its target. Let's go. Li Fan patted Shang Tianxi's shoulder. Without saying anything, he just returned the heavenly scene treasure gourd. Shang Tianxi felt something in his heart, and instantly understood what the other party meant. With a thought, in an instant, a peculiar fluctuation enveloped the two of them. After a moment, the figures of the two disappeared from the top of Tianlao Mountain. Above Heavenly Longevity City, the 3 Five Elders Association Dao Integration Cultivators who were besieging the Heavenly Longevity Guardian, Qingyu Immortal Venerate, suddenly had a slight change in expression. Looking at a ball of fire rapidly flying towards them. What is that? Originally thought it was the 10,000 Immortals Alliance's backhand killer move. But after scanning with their divine sense, they discovered that hidden in this ball of fire was actually a jade slip. The 3 did not communicate, but their actions were surprisingly consistent. A Dao integration cultivator wearing a linen shirt, like a middle-aged farmer, intercepted the jade slip. After a thorough examination, the 3 narrowed their eyes in unison. The Myriad Worlds Union helped us solve the crisis of information leakage. A method that can greatly reduce the effect of the essence devouring white mist, and can march in the white mist. Although the content contained in the jade slip was not much, the amount of information was extremely large. Their divine senses instantly swept across the entire 9 Mountain State, but they did not find the figure of the person who threw the jade slip. They do have some tricks up their sleeves. The 3 all showed very interested expressions. Taihua State. Li Fan and Shang Tianxi appeared without warning on Taihua Mountain, one of the 10 veins of Taihua. Your heavenly scene gourd is truly wondrous. It seems to be using the power of the earth veins to achieve instantaneous leap transfer. Li Fan savored the process of the space shuttle just now, marveling. No, rather than the power of the earth veins, it's more like directly using the Xuanwang world's power to achieve location changes. Li Fan instantly remembered the scene of Mr. Bai, walking slowly, that he had seen before. He felt something in his heart. Although Mr. Bai had fallen, the various abilities that existed in the Xuanwang world had not disappeared as a result. Instead, they were scattered and inherited by various so-called geniuses. But even Mr. Bai, who could integrate the mysteries of Xuanwang into one, is no match for the inheritor of the law. Let alone these geniuses. At most, they are just good resources in the eyes of the inheritor of the law. Li Fan pondered the thoughts of the heavenly venerate of law inheritance. But Shang Tianxi did not notice this. He still introduced his twin treasure gourds to Li Fan as if showing off. My life-bound strange objects, there are 2 gourds. One purple and one green. You have seen the green one, senior, it can record mountain and water locations, and then shuttle at will. As for this purple gourd, there will be another chapter in a while.